Fuck One for All. What if Deku traded One for All for the burning light of Zakarum? Imagine Midoriya face-tanking Bakugo's explosions and smiting Shigaraki with Diablo 4 level violence. Would UA survive a literal crusade? Put on your heavy armor, because the symbol of peace just got a divine upgrade.
Welcome, Legends, to Chronos Recom. I wrote this story myself, so if you have any suggestions or what-ifs you want to see, drop it in the comments below. Also, just wanted to let you know I've got a Patreon set up now for anyone who wants to support the channel directly. You can get early access to stories, submit direct fan requests, and get exclusive content. It's totally optional, but if you want to help keep these stories coming, check it out. Links in the description. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit that bell so you never miss an upload. Let's dive into this story.
The sludge villain incident was supposed to end with All Might saving the day. That's how these things always went. The #1 hero would arrive with his trademark smile, wind up his legendary Detroit smash, and the villain would be scattered to the four winds, while bystanders cheered and cameras flashed. That was the script. That was the world Musutafu knew. But on that sweltering afternoon in downtown Musutafu, the script was torn to shreds and set on fire. Katsuki Bakugo thrashed inside the living prison of sentient sludge, explosions popping uselessly against the villain's fluid form. The crowd of pro heroes stood frozen, unable to act. Mount Lady was too big for the narrow street. Kamui Wood's quirk was useless against a liquid opponent. Death Arms couldn't get close without risking contamination. All they could do was watch as the boy suffocated, his muffled screams growing weaker. "Someone has to do something," a woman in the crowd shrieked. "Where's All Might? The kid's gonna die!" Then the temperature dropped, not physically. The summer heat still pressed down on the street like a weight, but something in the air changed. A pressure, a presence. The crowd fell silent, heads turning as the sound of metal on concrete rang out. Clang, clang, clang. Footsteps. Heavy, methodical, deliberate. From the mouth of an alley stepped a figure that didn't belong in the 21st century. He stood maybe 5'8", but the gleaming plate armor made him seem larger. Polished silver inlaid with gold filigree caught the sunlight. Each piece perfectly fitted. Pauldrons etched with spiraling holy symbols, a breastplate emblazoned with a radiant sun, gauntlets that looked like they could crush concrete. A white tabard hung from his shoulders, pristine and unmarked except for the golden sunburst over his heart. At his side hung a flanged mace that hummed with barely restrained energy, and strapped to his left arm was a tower shield nearly as tall as he was, its surface inscribed with prayers in a language no one recognized. The helmet covered his face completely, T-shaped visor revealing only darkness within and 2 pinpricks of golden light where eyes should be. The sludge villain's eyes, if the bubbling masses could be called eyes, fixed on the armored figure. What the hell? Is this some kind of cosplay event? Get lost, tin can before I... The figure knelt. Right there in the middle of the street, he dropped to one knee, placed his mace across his lap, and clasped his gauntleted hands together. What is he doing? Death Arms muttered. Is he praying? Kamui Woods sounded incredulous. The armored figure's voice rang out, young but absolutely certain, carrying across the stunned silence. Akarat, give me strength. Guide my shield to protect the innocent. Guide my hammer to strike down evil. Let the light shine in this place of darkness. Golden light erupted from his body, not the flashy, explosive kind that came from quirks. This was different, pure, radiant. The kind of light that seemed to burn away shadows that weren't even there. It pulsed outward in waves, and where it touched the sludge villain, the creature screamed. What is this? It burns! It burns! The armored figure rose to his feet in one smooth motion, shield raised, mace at the ready. When he spoke again, his voice carried absolute conviction. Release the boy, villain. Face the judgment of the light. Screw you! The sludge villain lashed out with a tendril of ooze aiming to engulf this new annoyance. The figure didn't dodge. He raised his shield and the tendril splattered against it like water against stone. Golden light flared at the point of impact, and the sludge sizzled and steamed, chunks of it evaporating into nothing. Impossible, the villain shrieked. My body is liquid. Physical attacks don't work on... Consecration. The word was spoken quietly, almost gently, but when the armored figure slammed the base of his shield into the ground, the entire street exploded with holy fire. Golden flames erupted from beneath the pavement, forming a circle 20 feet across with the armored warrior at its center. The fire didn't burn the concrete or the buildings or the watching crowd, but where it touched the sludge villain, the creature's screams reached a fever pitch. "No! No! Make it stop!" The villain tried to retreat, pulling away from Bakugo to escape the burning light, but the armored figure was already moving. He crossed the distance in 3 long strides, and his voice boomed out with the force of divine thunder. "Shield bash!" He charged forward, tower, shield leading, and the impact when he connected with the sludge villain's mass was like a bomb going off. Boom! A shockwave rippled outward, shattering windows and sending the crowd stumbling back. The sludge villain was launched backward, mass compressing from the sheer force, flying through the air, trailing droplets of green ooze. Bakugo dropped to the ground, gasping and coughing, finally free. But the armored figure wasn't done. He planted his feet, raised his mace to the sky, and the weapon began to glow with golden radiance so bright people had to shield their eyes. Storm clouds that hadn't existed seconds ago formed overhead, swirling and crackling with divine energy. Smite! Lightning didn't fall from the sky. Lightning was called down, commanded by an authority that predated quirks and heroes in the modern age. A pillar of pure golden electricity connected heaven to earth, and the sludge villain was at ground zero. The creature's scream lasted exactly 1 second before it was drowned out by the thunder. The lightning burned so bright it left after images in everyone's vision. When it faded, all that remained of the sludge villain was a smoking crater and a few puddles of inert goo that no longer moved or thought or threatened anyone. Silence. The street was dead silent, except for the crackling of small fires and Bakugo's ragged breathing. The armored figure turned to face the boy he'd saved. Bakugo stared up at him, eyes wide, all his usual bravado shattered. For once in his life, Katsuki Baku had nothing to say. The armored figure extended a gauntleted hand. "Can you stand?" Bakugo took the hand automatically, still in shock, and was pulled to his feet with surprising gentleness given the strength that hand had just demonstrated. "You're safe now," the figure said. Then he turned to face the crowd of heroes and civilians, all of whom were staring at him like he'd just descended from another dimension, which, in a way, he had. Death Arms found his voice first. "Who? What? How did you?" "I am a paladin," the figure said simply. "A servant of the light. That is all you need to know." Then, before anyone could respond or ask questions or demand explanations, golden light enveloped him again. The armor didn't disappear so much as it dissolved, breaking apart into motes of radiance that faded into the air like fireflies at dawn. The mace and shield vanished the same way, returning to wherever they'd come from. Standing where the armored warrior had been was a boy. 14 years old, maybe 15. Shaggy green hair, a simple school uniform, freckles across his cheeks. He looked completely ordinary except for his eyes, green like spring grass, but carrying a depth and intensity that made him seem far older than his years. Izuku Midoriya looked at the stunned crowd, gave a small nod, and turned to walk away. "Wait," Mount Lady called out. "You can't just... We need to get your statement. The police will want to." "I have nothing more to say," Izuku said without looking back. "The villain has been stopped. The innocent are safe. That's all that matters." He walked away with the same methodical pace his armored form had used, unhurried but unstoppable, and the crowd parted before him like water. Bakugo stood frozen in place, watching his childhood friend, the quirkless loser Deku, the kid he'd tormented for years, disappear into the crowd. His hands shook, not with anger, with something he'd never felt before when thinking about Izuku Midoriya. Fear. "What the hell?" Bakugo whispered. "What the hell was that?" In the crowd, a skeletal man in an oversized suit watched with wide blue eyes. Toshinori Yagi, better known to the world as All Might, had arrived 30 seconds too late. He'd burst onto the scene ready to save the day and found the day already saved. By a child. A child who wielded power unlike anything Toshinori had ever seen. Power that burned with righteousness and conviction. Power that didn't feel like a quirk at all. "Interesting," All Might murmured, a smile crossing his gaunt features. "Very interesting indeed." But Izuku Midoriya was already gone, vanished into the city, and he had no intention of waiting around for praise or recognition or questions he didn't want to answer. He had more important things to do, like training, like preparing, like making sure he was ready for what came next, because this was only the beginning. The cameras had caught everything. By nightfall, the footage would be all over the news. By morning, the entire country would be asking the same question: who is the Paladin? But to understand the answer to that question, we need to go back to the beginning. Back to the moment when Izuku Midoriya's world shattered and he had to choose between drowning in despair or forging a new path. Back to the day he was diagnosed quirkless. Izuku Midoriya was 4 years old when the doctor destroyed his dreams. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Midoriya," the physician said, pulling up an x-ray that meant nothing to young Izuku. "Your son has the extra joint in his pinky toe. He's part of the 20%. No quirk will manifest." His mother's hand tightened around his. Are you certain? No chance at all?" "I'm afraid not. It's extremely rare for someone with this joint structure to develop a quirk. You should prepare yourselves for..." Izuku stopped listening. The world had gone distant and fuzzy, like he was underwater. No quirk. Quirkless. The word felt like a death sentence. In a world where 80% of people had powers, where heroes with incredible abilities fought villains on live television, where having a quirk determined your worth as a person, being quirkless meant being nothing, being less than nothing. His mother cried that night. Izuku heard her through the walls of their small apartment, trying to muffle her sobs. He stared at the ceiling of his room, surrounded by All Might posters and hero merchandise, and felt something inside him crack. Could he still be a hero without a quirk? The question haunted him. The bullying started almost immediately. Kids who'd been his friends turned on him with the cruel efficiency that only children possess. The worst was Katsuki Bakugo, his former best friend, whose explosive quirk had manifested spectacularly and whose ego had grown to match. "Quirkless Deku," Bakugo sneered, shoving Izuku into the dirt of the playground. "Useless Deku. Why don't you just give up?" Izuku didn't fight back. What was the point? Bakugo could create explosions with his hands. Izuku could do nothing. The years between 4 and 8 blurred together in a haze of isolation and mockery. Izuku retreated into his notebooks, analyzing heroes and their quirks with obsessive detail. If he couldn't be a hero, maybe he could at least understand them. Maybe he could find some worth in that. But it wasn't enough. The emptiness inside grew larger, darker, a void that threatened to swallow him whole. Everything changed on a rainy Tuesday in November when Izuku was 8 years old. He'd been running from Bakugo and his cronies, their laughter echoing through the streets as explosions popped behind him. "Come back here, Deku! We're not done with you!" Desperate and terrified, Izuku ducked into the old municipal library, a building most people had forgotten existed in the age of digital information. The librarian, an ancient woman with a quirk that let her know the location of any book in her building, didn't even look up as the drenched, panting boy stumbled past her desk. Izuku fled deep into the stacks, into sections that probably hadn't been touched in decades. He finally collapsed in a corner between shelves marked Ancient History and Mythology, trying to catch his breath, trying not to cry. That's when he saw it. The book sat on a shelf at eye level, which was strange because all the other books around it were covered in dust. This one looked like it had been placed there yesterday. The leather binding was aged but well-maintained, dyed a deep crimson. Gold leaf lettering adorned the spine. The Chronicles of Zakarum. Izuku had never heard of it. He pulled it from the shelf, expecting it to be heavy, but it came away easily, almost eagerly. The moment his fingers touched the cover, something happened. Warmth. Not heat, but warmth, like sunlight on skin or a parent's embrace. It radiated from the book into his hands, up his arms, spreading through his chest. For the first time in 4 years, the emptiness inside him retreated. Izuku opened the book. The pages were yellowed, but pristine, covered in elegant handwriting that shifted between languages he didn't recognize and perfectly clear Japanese. How was that possible? But the question faded as he began to read, and the words pulled him in like a riptide. The book told of another world. Not Earth, place called Sanctuary, a realm where angels and demons waged eternal war and humanity was caught in the middle. A place where quirks didn't exist, but something else did. the light. According to the Chronicles, the light was the manifestation of conviction, faith, and righteous will. It wasn't genetic, it wasn't biological. It couldn't be measured or tested or diagnosed. The light came to those who believed, truly believed, in justice, protection, and sacrifice. It came to the Paladins. The book described them in detail. Holy warriors clad in blessed armor, wielding hammers and shields and flails against the forces of darkness. They were tanks on the battlefield, immovable objects that protected the weak and destroyed evil. Their power came not from some quirk of birth, but from the strength of their faith and the purity of their purpose. They were chosen not by genetics, but by conviction. Izuku read for hours, the world outside the library forgotten. He read about Akarat, the founder of the Zakarum faith, who first codified the teachings that would create the Paladins. He read about the crusaders who came after, carrying on the tradition. He read about abilities that sounded impossible, calling lightning from the heavens, creating shields of pure light, healing the wounded with a touch. Most importantly, he read the Paladin's oath. I am the light in the darkness. I am the shield before the weak. I am the hammer of justice. My conviction is my strength. My faith is my armor. My purpose is absolute. I serve the light and the light alone. Something ignited in Izuku's chest. Hope. For the first time since the doctor's diagnosis, Izuku felt hope. Because this wasn't about quirks or genetics or lucky biology. This was about will, about choosing to be strong, about believing so completely in something that you made it real through sheer conviction. Could it work? Could something from another world manifest here? The book seemed to pulse in his hands, warm and encouraging. Only one way to find out. Izuku checked out the book. The librarian's quirk-enhanced eyes widened when she saw the title, but she said nothing, and carried it home like it was made of gold. That night, alone in his room, he read the entire thing cover to cover. Then he made a decision. If quirks could make him a hero, then faith would. The training started the next day. Izuku was 8 years old, scrawny and weak and quirkless. But the chronicles were clear. Paladins didn't start strong. They became strong through discipline, training, and unwavering conviction. The body was a temple, the mind was a weapon, the spirit was unbreakable. He started small. Push-ups, sit-ups, squats. His body screamed in protest after 10 of each, but he pushed through. The book said pain was temporary, conviction was eternal. He woke up at 5 in the morning to train before school. He trained after school. He trained on weekends. His mother worried, but Izuku smiled and told her he was just exercising. She didn't need to know about the book or the oath or the impossible dream taking root in his heart. The bullying continued. Bakugo and his friends still shoved him around, still called him Deku, still made his school life hell. But something had changed. Izuku didn't cry anymore. He took the hits, stood back up, and met Bakugo's eyes with a calm that unsettled the explosive boy. What are you looking at, Deku? Nothing, Kachan. Nothing at all. At 9, Izuku started weight training with whatever he could find. Milk jugs filled with sand, his mother's old dumbbells, his own body weight. The chronicles emphasize that paladins wore heavy armor and wielded massive weapons. He needed to build strength. He also started meditation. Every night before bed, he sat cross-legged on his floor, eyes closed, and focused on the warmth he'd felt when he first touched the book. He imagined light filling his body, driving out the darkness, making him stronger. For months, nothing happened, but Izuku didn't give up. Paladins didn't give up. At 10, during a meditation session on a cold December night, it finally happened. Izuku sat in his usual position, breathing slowly, focusing on the light within. He'd been at it for an hour, longer than usual, and his legs were cramping. But something felt different tonight. The warmth in his chest was stronger. Brighter. Akarat, he whispered, using the prayer he'd memorized. Grant me strength. Show me the light. His right hand began to glow. Izuku's eyes snapped open, and he gasped. Golden light radiated from his palm, soft and warm and absolutely real. It lasted only 3 seconds before fading, but it was enough. It was real. The light was real, and he could touch it. Izuku burst into tears. But they were tears of joy. He wasn't quirkless. He was something else. Something the world had forgotten, something that didn't need genetics or biology or a doctor's approval. He was becoming a paladin. The training intensified. At 11, Izuku could do 200 push-ups without stopping. He'd grown lean and wiry, muscles developing in ways that surprised his mother. "Are you eating enough?" she fretted. "You're getting so thin." He was eating plenty. He was just burning it all off in training that would have hospitalized most kids his age. He started practicing with weapons. Not real ones. He couldn't exactly buy a mace or a flail at his age, but wooden substitutes he made himself. He drilled sword forms from diagrams in the chronicles. He practiced shield work with a trash can lid. His neighbors probably thought he was insane, this 12-year-old swinging sticks around in the park at dawn. Izuku didn't care what they thought. The light responded to his dedication. He could manifest it more consistently now, a glow around his hands, a flash when he struck. It was weak still, barely visible in daylight, but it was growing. At 12, Izuku's body had transformed completely. He stood 5'6", broad-shouldered despite his age, with the lean muscle of a dedicated athlete. His school uniform hid most of it, but under the clothes was a physique that would have made pro heroes nod in approval. More importantly, his mind had transformed. The scared, crying child was gone. In his place was someone who'd read the Chronicles so many times he could recite passages from memory. Someone who'd sworn the Paladin's oath 1,000 times and meant it more with each repetition. Someone who was ready to take the next step. On his 13th birthday, Izuku made his first real attempt to summon the armor. He'd moved beyond the park to an abandoned lot on the outskirts of town, a place where no one would see or interrupt. The sun was setting, painting the sky gold and red. Appropriate, he thought. Izuku knelt in the center of the lot, hands clasped, head bowed. He'd fasted for 24 hours to purify himself. He'd meditated for 3 hours that morning. He'd recited the oath until his voice was hoarse. Now came the moment of truth. "Akarat, hear me," Izuku prayed, and his voice didn't shake. "I have trained my body, I have fortified my mind, I have sworn myself to the light. I am ready to become your instrument. I am ready to be the shield for those who cannot protect themselves. I am ready to be the hammer that strikes down evil. Grant me the armor of the faithful. Let me become what I was meant to be." The light exploded from his body. Golden radiance erupted from every pore, so bright it turned the twilight into noon. Izuku felt it pour into him like molten gold, filling every vein, every muscle, every cell. It should have burned. Instead, it felt like coming home. The armor formed piece by piece. Sabatons materialized on his feet, gleaming silver, chased with gold. Greaves wrapped his shins, cuisses protected his thighs. A fald covered his waist. The breastplate was last, locking into place with a sound like a church bell, emblazoned with the golden sunburst of Zakarum, pauldrons broader than his shoulders, gauntlets that hummed with restrained power, a gorget, a helmet with a T-shaped visor. In his right hand, a flanged mace appeared, its head etched with prayers. In his left, a tower shield as tall as his chest, its surface covered in holy script. Izuku stood in full plate armor, and the weight that should have crushed him felt like nothing. He was stronger in the armor, faster. The light flowed through him like blood, enhancing everything. He took a step. The armor moved like a second skin. Another step. He broke into a run, and even in full plate, he was quick, efficient. He swung the mace experimentally. Whoosh! The air sang. He raised the shield, and it felt as natural as breathing. Izuku Midoriya threw back his head and laughed, the sound echoing inside the helmet. After 9 years of being told he was worthless, after 9 years of being called quirkless and useless and Deku, he had done the impossible. He had become a paladin, the first in centuries, maybe the first ever on Earth. "Thank you," he whispered to the light, to Akarat, to whatever divine force had guided him to that book. "I won't waste this gift. I swear it." The armor dissolved back into light, returning to wherever it resided when not called. Izuku stood in the abandoned lot in his normal clothes, grinning like a madman. He spent the next year mastering his abilities. Every day he summoned the armor, held it longer, pushed it harder. He learned to manifest individual pieces, just the gauntlets for enhanced strikes, just the shield for defense. He practiced the abilities described in the Chronicles. Smite came first. Calling lightning felt wrong at first, presumptuous, like he was demanding too much. But the Chronicles were clear. Paladins didn't ask. They commanded. The light served those with conviction, and Izuku's conviction was absolute. The first time he called lightning from a clear sky and watched it strike a boulder in the abandoned lot, reducing it to gravel, Izuku knew he was ready. Consecration followed, blessed ground that burned evil and healed allies. He practiced on plants, watching wilted flowers revive in the golden light. Shield bash, blessed hammer, holy light. One by one, he mastered the basic abilities, then moved on to the advanced techniques. Each ability required absolute faith. If he doubted, even for a second, the light would falter. So Izuku learned to eliminate doubt. He meditated until his mind was a fortress. He trained until his body moved on instinct. He studied the chronicles until every word was burned into his soul. By 14, Izuku Midoriya was no longer the quirkless victim. He was a weapon forged in faith and tempered by discipline. He was a paladin. And when the sludge villain attacked Bakugo in that downtown street, Izuku didn't hesitate. He summoned his armor, spoke his prayers, and showed the world what true power looked like. Not the power of genetics, the power of conviction, the power of the light. And now, walking away from the scene of his first public appearance, Izuku allowed himself a small smile. The hard part was over. He'd proven to himself that the light was real, that his training had worked, that he could make a difference. What came next would be even more interesting, because Izuku Midoriya had no intention of hiding. He was going to attend UA High School. He was going to become a hero. And he was going to do it as a paladin, showing this world of quirks and genetics that there was another kind of power, the kind that came from within, the kind that couldn't be erased or stolen or taken away, the kind that would change everything. Izuku made it 3 blocks before a voice called out behind him. Wait, young man, please wait. He turned to find All Might, the real All Might in his muscle form, blonde hair perfect and smile blazing, running toward him. The symbol of peace skidded to a stop, and Izuku noticed something odd. All Might looked uncertain, nervous almost. Young man, All Might said, that famous voice carrying across the street. That was what you did back there was incredible. I've never seen anything like it. Izuku bowed respectfully. Thank you, All Might. I'm honored. I have to ask, what is your quirk called? I've been a hero for decades, and I've never encountered anything that felt like... All Might gestured vaguely. Like that. The power you displayed, it was almost divine. That's because it is divine, Izuku said simply. It's not a quirk, All Might. It's the light. I'm a paladin. All Might blinked. A paladin? Like from fantasy stories? Like from another world, Izuku corrected. A world called Sanctuary. I serve Akarat and the Zakarum faith. My power comes from conviction, not genetics. All Might's smile faltered slightly. Not from disbelief, but from something else. Recognition, maybe. I see. And you're, what, 14? 15? 14. Do you plan to become a hero? I am a hero, Izuku said, and there wasn't a shred of arrogance in his voice, just certainty. I've been training for this since I was 8 years old. I'll be applying to UA when the entrance exams open. All Might's smile returned full force. Excellent. Then perhaps we'll see each other again. I have a feeling you're going to do great things, young paladin. He turned to leave, then paused. Actually, would you be interested in... If you're about to offer me your power, Izuku interrupted gently, I must respectfully decline. All Might froze. How did you... I can sense these things, Izuku said. It wasn't quite true. He'd recognized the famous deflating act All Might did when he thought no one was looking, had put together the rumors about the symbol of peace's declining activity, and made an educated guess. But it sounded better than I'm a huge fanboy who analyzed your every public appearance. And while I'm honored, All Might, I don't need your quirk. The light chose me. That's enough. For a long moment, All Might just stared at him. Then he laughed, loud and genuine. You're something else, kid, the first person to ever turn down one for all. I can't decide if you're incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Why not both? Izuku smiled. Fair enough. All Might clapped him on the shoulder, nearly staggering him despite the strength Izuku had built. Then I'll see you at UA, young Midoriya. Izuku bowed again as All Might rocketed away in a burst of speed, leaving only scattered papers in his wake. The boy who would be a paladin stood alone on the street, watching the setting sun paint the sky in shades of gold. 10 months until the UA entrance exam. 10 months to prepare. 10 months to get even stronger. Izuku turned toward home, already planning his next training session. He had work to do. The news coverage was insane. By the time Izuku got home, every channel was showing the footage. The image of him in full plate armor, golden light blazing, had already become a meme. The internet was losing its collective mind. Mystery Paladin saves student. New hero debuts with incredible quirk. Who is the holy knight of Musutafu? Izuku sat at the kitchen table with his mother, both of them watching the reports in silence. Izuku Midoriya's hands were shaking. Izuku, she finally said. That was you. It wasn't a question. Yes, Mom. That armor, that power, how long have you... Since I was 8, Izuku said quietly. I found a book. It taught me another way. Inko turned to him, eyes wide. 8? You've been training since you were 8 and you never told me? I didn't want you to worry, and I didn't know if it would work. Izuku met her eyes. But it did. I'm not quirkless, Mom. I'm something else. I'm a paladin. Tears rolled down Inko's cheeks. You could have been killed. That villain, he couldn't, Izuku said gently. The light protects me. I'm stronger than I look. Faster. The armor makes me nearly invulnerable. He took her hand. I know you're scared, but this is what I was meant to do. I can feel it. Inko pulled him into a crushing hug, and Izuku hugged her back, this woman who'd supported him even when the world called him worthless. Just promise me you'll be careful, she whispered. I promise. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. So, UA? UA, Izuku confirmed. Then you'd better keep training. Those entrance exams are brutal. Izuku grinned. Mom, I called lightning from the sky today. I think I'll manage. The next morning, Izuku's phone exploded with messages. Most were from classmates he barely knew, suddenly wanting to be his friend. A few were from news outlets asking for interviews. He deleted all of them. But one message made him pause. We need to talk. Izuku stared at the message for a long moment. Then he typed back. Okay. Parked near my house. 1 hour. Bakugo was waiting when Izuku arrived, hands shoved in his pockets, face dark. He looked like he hadn't slept. Deku, Bakugo said. Kachan. They stood 10 feet apart, the morning sun throwing long shadows. What the hell was that yesterday? Bakugo's voice was tight. That armor, that lightning, all of it. What the hell are you? I'm a paladin, Izuku said calmly. A holy warrior. I've been training for 6 years. Bullshit. You're quirkless. The doctors were right. I don't have a quirk. Izuku's eyes glowed faintly gold. I have something better. Something that doesn't depend on genetics or luck. Something I earned. Bakugo's fists clenched, small explosions popping in his palms. You're saying you're stronger than me now? Stronger than everyone? Is that it? I'm saying I found my path. You should focus on yours. Don't patronize me! Bakugo lunged forward, explosion-propelled fist aimed at Izuku's face. Izuku didn't summon his armor. He didn't need to. He simply caught Bakugo's wrist mid-strike, the explosion washing over his hand harmlessly. His grip was iron. Stop, Izuku said quietly. Bakugo struggled, setting off more explosions, but Izuku's hand didn't budge. The green-haired boy stood there, calm and unmovable, while Bakugo exhausted himself. Finally, Bakugo stopped, chest heaving. Let go. Izuku released him. Your anger makes you weak, Kachan. A true warrior needs discipline, control. If you want to be the best, you need to master yourself first. I don't need advice from you, Deku. My name, Izuku said, and his voice carried an edge that made Bakugo step back, is Izuku. Izuku Midoriya. I'm not quirkless Deku anymore. I'm not helpless. I'm not weak. And the next time you attack me, I'll put you on the ground. Understood? Bakugo stared at him, really seeing him for the first time. The lean muscle, the scars peeking out from under his collar. When had Deku gotten scars? The absolute confidence in his stance. This wasn't the kid he'd bullied for a decade. This was someone else entirely. Someone dangerous. UA entrance exams are in 10 months, Izuku continued. I'll see you there, Kachan. Maybe by then you'll have learned some control. He turned and walked away, leaving Bakugo standing alone in the park, fists clenched and mind racing. For the first time in his life, Katsuki Bakugo felt something when thinking about Izuku Midoriya. Respect. And he hated it. The 10 months between the sludge villain incident and the UA entrance exams passed in a blur. Izuku trained harder than ever. He'd revealed himself to the world, which meant he couldn't afford to be anything less than perfect. He expanded his repertoire of abilities, mastering techniques from the chronicles that he'd only read about before. Blessed Hammer became his favorite. The spectral weapons that spiraled out from him golden and deadly, could shred through almost anything. He practiced in the abandoned lot until he could summon dozens at once, filling the air with holy destruction. Falling Star required the most work. The first time he attempted it, he leaped into the air expecting angelic wings to manifest and carry him higher. Instead, he jumped about 6 feet and landed hard. But the chronicles were clear about the technique, so Izuku persisted. Faith and conviction, will made manifest. The breakthrough came during a thunderstorm. Izuku stood in the abandoned lot, rain hammering down, lightning splitting the sky. He'd been training for 8 hours straight and his body was screaming. But something felt different tonight. The storm, the rain, the electricity in the air, it all resonated with the light inside him. Akarat, Izuku prayed, closing his eyes. Grant me wings, let me touch the heavens. He jumped. And this time, when he reached the apex of his leap, wings exploded from his back. Not physical wings, but constructs of pure golden light, feathered and radiant and absolutely real. They beat once, twice, and Izuku shot upward like a missile. The ground fell away beneath him. 10 feet, 20, 50, 100. He rose through the storm clouds, rain turning to steam where it touched the light radiating from his body. Higher, higher. At the peak, easily 300 feet up, Izuku looked down at the city spread below him. Lights glittered like stars. He could see everything. Then he aimed himself at the earth and dove. The wings folded back. Gravity took over. Izuku fell like a meteor, golden light trailing behind him, and the light gathered around him in a shell of divine fire. Wind screamed past. The ground rushed up. Impact. The abandoned lot ceased to exist. Where Izuku struck the earth, a crater 40 feet across opened up. Earth and stone vaporized by the sheer force. The shockwave shattered windows 3 blocks away. A pillar of golden fire erupted skyward, visible across half the city. When the light faded, Izuku stood at the center of the crater, armor gleaming, completely unharmed. Falling Star, mastered. He added Heaven's Fury to his arsenal, learning to channel concentrated beams of light that could punch through concrete like paper. He perfected Shield Charge, the ability to become an unstoppable freight train with his shield raised. He mastered the auras, learning to switch between them instinctively. Fanaticism made him a blur of violence. Defiance made him an immovable fortress. Holy light turned him into a walking heal beacon. By the time the entrance exam rolled around, Izuku Midoriya was a one-man army, and he was ready to prove it. The morning of the UA entrance exam dawned clear and bright. Izuku stood outside the massive gates of UA High School, Japan's most prestigious hero academy, and felt a moment of profound satisfaction. 10 years ago, the doctors had told him he was quirkless, worthless, unable to be a hero. Now he was about to walk through those gates as a paladin, and God help anyone who tried to stop him. He was dressed in his school uniform, but underneath he could feel the light coiled and ready. One thought, one prayer, and the armor would manifest. He decided to make an entrance they wouldn't forget. Other students milled around, chattering nervously. Izuku recognized a few faces from the news. That boy with the tail was from a famous hero family. That girl with the frog quirk had made headlines for rescuing people from a flood, talent everywhere. And then there was the spiky blonde head pushing through the crowd. Bakugo. Their eyes met across the courtyard. Bakugo's jaw tightened, but he didn't approach. Good. He was learning. Excuse me. Izuku turned to find a tall boy with glasses and dark blue hair marching toward him. The newcomer looked stern and official. You there, with the green hair. The boy stopped in front of Izuku and bowed sharply at a perfect 90-degree angle. I am Tenya Ida. I wanted to introduce myself to a fellow examinee and wish you luck in the upcoming exam. Izuku blinked. Oh, thank you. I'm Izuku Midoriya. Good luck to you too. Ida straightened. Midoriya, why does that name sound familiar? Maybe you've seen the news? Izuku offered. Ida's eyes went wide. The Paladin, you're the hero who stopped the sludge villain. I didn't recognize you without the armor. Several nearby students turned to stare. That's him? The religious quirk guy? I heard he called down lightning. Great. So much for keeping a low profile. A girl with brown hair and pink cheeks bounced over, eyes sparkling. Oh my gosh, you're the Paladin. That was so cool what you did. Is your armor quirk really medieval style? Can you summon it anytime? Does it hurt? Izuku found himself slightly overwhelmed by her enthusiasm. She was cute, with a bright smile and genuine excitement. It doesn't hurt, no. And yes, I can summon it when needed. That's so awesome. I'm Ochako Uraraka. Let's both do our best today. Before Izuku could respond, a booming voice echoed across the courtyard. All right, listeners, time to head inside for the orientation. Present Mike, the voice hero, stood on a platform gesturing wildly. The students began filing toward the auditorium, and Izuku found himself swept along in the crowd. The orientation was standard. Present Mike explained the exam format. Destroy robots in a mock city to earn points. Different robots had different point values. The usual. But Izuku noticed something. Present Mick mentioned 3 types of robots, 1-pointers, 2-pointers, and 3-pointers. But the handout showed 4. Ida noticed too. His hand shot up. Excuse me, the handout shows 4 robots, but you only mentioned 3. If this is an error in the official UA materials, it's a disgrace. Great question, examinee 7111. Present Mike's grin was manic. The 4th robot is worth 0 points. It's an obstacle, a gimmick. Avoid it and focus on the point scorers. Izuku frowned. That didn't make sense. UA didn't do anything without reason. If they'd created a massive robot just to be avoided, there had to be more to it. He filed the thought away for later. The students were divided into groups and sent to different mock cities. Izuku found himself in Battle Center A, and interestingly, neither Bakugo nor Ida was in his group. Probably intentional. UA would have checked their schools and separated anyone who might work together. The students gathered at the entrance to the mock city, a sprawling urban environment filled with buildings and streets. Somewhere in there, robots were waiting. Izuku closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Nervous? He opened his eyes to find Uraraka standing beside him, smiling encouragingly. Not nervous, Izuku said, just preparing. Oh, do you have like a meditation quirk too? My quirk is 0 gravity. I can make things float. She demonstrated by touching a pebble, which immediately drifted upward. That's amazing, Izuku said genuinely. You could use that in so many creative ways. Uraraka blushed. You really think so? I'm hoping to begin. Present Mike's voice boomed from speakers throughout the mock city, and the entrance gates flew open. Students charged forward in a stampede, the quirks activating left and right. Fire, ice, enhanced speed, transformations. Izuku stood still, hands clasped together in prayer. Akarat, grant me strength. Golden light exploded from his body. The students nearest to him stumbled back, shielding their eyes as radiance poured off Izuku in waves. The light coalesced, solidified, taking shape piece by piece. The armor manifested. Silver and gold plate covered him from head to toe. The tabard snapped in a wind that didn't exist. The tower shield materialized on his left arm, inscribed prayers glowing. A flanged mace appeared in his right hand, humming with divine power. The helmet was last, locking into place with a sound like a church bell. The visor glowed from within, golden light spilling from the T-shaped opening. Izuku took a step forward and the ground cracked under the weight of his armored boot. Then he began to walk, not run. Walk, methodical, deliberate, unstoppable. Clang, clang, clang. The other students had already scattered into the city, but those who looked back saw the armored figure advancing like something from another age, and several of them just stopped to stare. What the hell is that? Is that a quirk? He looks like a video game character. Izuku turned a corner and found his first target, a 1-pointer robot, vaguely humanoid, scanning for students. Its optical sensors locked onto him. Target acquired. The robot charged, piston-driven fist aimed at Izuku's head. Izuku didn't dodge. He raised his shield and let the punch land. Clang! The robot's fist crumpled against the blessed steel. Metal shrieked. The force of the impact cratered the street beneath Izuku's feet, but the paladin himself didn't budge an inch. My turn, Izuku said. He swung his mace in a short, brutal arc. Smite! Lightning didn't fall from the sky this time. It erupted from the mace itself, channeling through the weapon into the robot. Crack! The machine seized up, electricity arcing across its frame, and then it exploded in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. 1 point. Izuku continued walking. 2 more 1-pointers emerged from an alley. Izuku didn't break stride. Blessed hammer. Golden light coalesced around him, and spectral hammers began to spin outward in a spiral pattern. The weapons were solid light, each one the size of a bowling ball, and they rotated around Izuku like a deadly carousel. The robots charged, the hammers met them mid-stride. Crunch, smash. The spectral weapons tore through the machines like they were made of aluminum foil. Metal screamed, sparks flew. The robots collapsed in pieces. 2 more points. Holy crap, someone shouted from a nearby rooftop. Did you see that? Izuku ignored them. He had work to do. A 3-pointer appeared, larger, faster, more dangerous. It opened fire with projectiles from shoulder-mounted launchers. Small metal spheres shot toward Izuku at high velocity. He raised his shield. Defiance. His aura activated, and suddenly the armor glowed with an inner light. The projectiles struck the shield and simply stopped. They didn't bounce off or deflect. They hit the blessed steel and fell to the ground, all momentum gone, nullified by the power of the light. Izuku lowered his shield and extended his mace toward the robot. Purify. A wave of golden light washed over the machine. It seized up immediately, systems scrambled by the divine energy. For something mechanical, facing the light was like having its circuits overloaded by pure conviction made manifest. Izuku walked up to the frozen robot and placed his gauntleted hand on its chassis. Repent. The robot exploded from the inside out, holy fire consuming its components. 3 more points. Across the mock city, students were racking up points through speed and power and clever quirk usage. But none of them were doing it quite like Izuku Midoriya. The Paladin had become a mobile disaster zone. Everywhere he walked, robots fell. He didn't hurry, he didn't panic. He simply advanced through the streets like an inexorable force of nature, and anything that stood in his way was destroyed. Blessed Hammer shredded through groups of 1-pointers. Smite called lightning that reduced 2-pointers to slag. Shield Bash sent 3-pointers flying through buildings. And through it all, Izuku's auras rotated, enhancing different aspects of his combat. Fanaticism made his strikes blindingly fast, mace and shield moving in golden blurs. Holy Light created a 10-foot radius of healing energy around him. Not that he needed it, but other students caught at the edge of his aura found minor injuries fading. Consecration turned the ground beneath his feet into blessed territory that made the robot's targeting systems glitch. In the observation room, the UA faculty watched in stunned silence. "What is that?" Snipe muttered, eyes fixed on the screen showing Izuku's rampage. "That," Principal Nedzu said, small paws pressed against the glass, "is the most interesting examinee we've had in a decade." Aizawa leaned forward, capture weapon draped around his neck. His movements are too refined, too practiced. This isn't someone who just manifested a quirk. He's been training for years. Indeed, All Might sat in his deflated form, no need to maintain the muscle form around colleagues. "I met him after the sludge villain incident. He claimed not to have a quirk at all, said he was a paladin, whatever that means." "Not a quirk," Midnight leaned in. "Then how is he?" On screen, Izuku activated Heaven's Fury. He planted his feet, raised his mace to the sky, and golden light began to gather above him. It coalesced into a concentrated beam as thick as a telephone pole, and then it lanced down into a group of robots. The machines didn't explode, they evaporated. The beam was so concentrated, so hot, so fundamentally antithetical to their mechanical existence that they simply ceased to be. Where 5 robots had stood, there was now only a glowing crater. 43 points, Nedzu observed. In 6 minutes. At this rate, he'll break the entrance exam record. "We should stop the test," Aizawa said. "He's going to hurt himself. That much power output." "Look at him," All Might interrupted, pointing at the screen. Izuku stood in the center of the street, armor gleaming, not even breathing hard. The golden light pulsing from his body hadn't dimmed at all. If anything, it was getting brighter. "He's not tired," All Might said quietly. "Whatever that power is, it's not exhausting him." Back in the mock city, Izuku had accumulated 70 points and was showing no signs of slowing. Other students had started following him, realizing that staying in his wake was safer than venturing out alone. The robots focused on the armored threat, leaving openings for others to score points. Uraraka was one of them. She'd managed to take down several 1-pointers using her quirk creatively, making them float and then dropping them from heights. But when a 2-pointer cornered her in an alley, she'd been in trouble. Then a golden hammer the size of a car had spiraled through the air and reduced the robot to scrap metal. She'd looked up to see the armored paladin standing at the alley entrance, mace resting on his shoulder. "You all right?" His voice echoed slightly inside the helmet. "Yes, thank you." He'd nodded and continued his methodical advance, leaving Uraraka staring after him with wide eyes and a blush she didn't quite understand. 8 minutes into the exam, it happened. The ground shook. Students stumbled, looking around in confusion. The rumbling grew louder, and then from behind a building at the far end of the street came the zero-pointer. It was massive, easily 50 feet tall, built like a tank with arms, its optical sensors glowing red. This was the obstacle Present Mike had mentioned. The gimmick. 0 points. To be avoided. Students screamed and ran. But Izuku stopped walking. He stood in the middle of the street, a small armored figure dwarfed by the mechanical giant, and tilted his head up to look at it. Interesting, he said. The zero-pointer's sensors locked onto him. Threat detected. Eliminating. It raised one massive arm and brought it down like a hammer. Izuku raised his shield. Fortress. Golden light erupted from his body in a dome that covered a 20-foot radius. The zero-pointer's fist struck the dome and stopped dead. The force of the impact cratered the street, shattered windows, sent out a shockwave that knocked students off their feet 3 blocks away. But inside the dome, Izuku stood perfectly still. The fortress held. My turn, Izuku said. He dismissed the fortress ability and immediately activated Blessed Hammer at maximum power. The spectral weapons manifested, but instead of the usual dozen or so, hundreds appeared. They filled the air around Izuku in a swirling vortex of golden destruction. Each hammer the size of a washing machine, all of them spinning faster and faster. Then Izuku thrust his mace forward, and the hammers shot outward like missiles. The zero-pointer never stood a chance. The spectral weapons struck its legs, its torso, its arms. Each impact punched through the heavy armor plating like it was cardboard. Metal shrieked. Hydraulics burst. The robot's optical sensors flashed in what might have been panic, and then Izuku leaped. Falling star! Golden wings exploded from his back, and he shot into the air like a rocket. Higher, higher. The students below watched in awe as the armored figure rose 300 feet, silhouetted against the sun. At the apex, the wings folded, and Izuku dove. He fell like divine judgment, golden fire wreathing his body, and the zero-pointer sensors tracked him all the way down. Impact. Izuku struck the robot's head with both feet, and the sheer kinetic energy transferred was apocalyptic. The zero-pointer's head crumpled inward, its neck supports shattered, cracks spider-webbed across its entire frame, and then it exploded. Not from internal damage, but from the holy fire that erupted from Izuku's body at the moment of impact. Golden flames consumed the machine from the inside out, melting metal and fusing circuits. The zero-pointer collapsed backward in slow motion, a burning metal corpse, and hit the ground with a thunderous crash that shook the entire mock city. Izuku rode it down, landing on the robot's chest as it settled. He stood there for a moment, the golden fire still flickering around his armor, and then he planted his shield in the center of the machine's chassis. Consecration. The ground beneath the zero-pointer lit up with holy light. The blessed fire spread across the robot's body, purifying it, ensuring it wouldn't rise again. Across the mock city, every student had stopped moving. They stood frozen, staring at the burning wreckage and the small armored figure standing atop it like a conqueror planting a flag. In the observation room, every teacher was silent. Finally, Nedzu spoke. Did he just... He soloed the zero-pointer, Aizawa finished, voice flat with disbelief. In under 30 seconds, Midnight added. All Might was grinning despite himself. Magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. On screen, Izuku dismissed his armor in a flash of golden light. He stood atop the wreckage in his normal school uniform, not even winded, and looked directly at the nearest camera. Then he smiled. And that's time. Present Mike's voice boomed across the mock city. Exam over, listeners. Hope you all brought your A game. Izuku hopped down from the wreckage and landed lightly. His final score, 77 villain points. But more importantly, he'd done something no other examinee had ever done. He destroyed the obstacle. Students began to gather, emerging from hiding spots and side streets, all of them staring at Izuku with expressions ranging from awe to terror. Who is that guy? Someone whispered. He just took down the zero-pointer like it was nothing. Did you see the lightning? The hammers? Uraraka pushed through the crowd and stopped in front of Izuku, eyes wide. That was... You were... How did you? Izuku smiled at her, and it was warm and genuine. Just doing what needed to be done. Are you all right? Did you get enough points? She nodded, still starstruck. I think so. But you saved people. When the zero-pointer appeared, there were students frozen in fear. You stopped it before it could hurt anyone. That's what heroes do, Izuku said simply. Unknown to him, the cameras had caught every moment of his intervention. And while villain points were important, UA also awarded rescue points, points for heroic actions that prioritized civilian safety over personal gain. Izuku's rescue point total, 60. Combined score, 137 points. A new entrance exam record. 1 week later, the letters arrived. Izuku sat at the kitchen table, staring at the envelope bearing the UA seal. His mother hovered anxiously nearby. "Well?" Inko pressed. "Open it." Izuku carefully unsealed the envelope and pulled out a small metal disc. He set it on the table, confused, and immediately a hologram sprang to life. All Might, in full muscle form, beamed at him from the projection. "Young Midoriya, I am here, as a projection." Izuku couldn't help but smile. "I'm here to tell you the results of your entrance exam, and let me say, it was spectacular. You scored 77 villain points, already enough to pass, but that's not all. There were also rescue points, points awarded for heroic actions." The hologram shifted to show footage of Izuku's exam, protecting other students, healing someone with holy light, standing between a robot and a group of frozen examinees. For your actions prioritizing the safety of others, you earned 60 rescue points, for a total of 137 points, a new record. Inko gasped, hands over her mouth. Young Midoriya, All Might continued, expression becoming serious. "I've been a hero for decades, and I've never seen anything quite like what you can do. Your power, your conviction, your absolute certainty in protecting others, you're going to be an incredible hero." The hologram zoomed in on All Might's face. "Welcome to UA, Izuku Midoriya. Welcome to your hero academia." The projection flickered out. For a moment, Izuku just sat there, staring at the space where All Might's image had been. Then his mother crashed into him with a hug so tight it would have cracked ribs if he hadn't been built like a brick wall from 10 years of training. "I'm so proud of you," Inko sobbed. So proud." Izuku hugged her back, and for the first time in a long time, he let himself feel the full weight of what he'd accomplished. Quirkless, worthless, Deku. That's what they'd called him, but he'd found another way. He'd forged himself into something new, something the world hadn't seen in centuries, if ever, a Paladin. And now he was going to UA. He was going to become a professional hero. He was going to show the world that quirks weren't the only path to greatness. The light had chosen him, and he wasn't going to waste that gift. The first day of classes at UA dawned bright and clear. Izuku stood outside the massive doors of Class 1A, taking a moment to center himself. This was it, the next step in his journey. Beyond these doors were the students who would be his classmates, his rivals, his allies. He pushed the door open and stepped inside. The classroom was already half full. Izuku recognized several faces from the entrance exam. Uraraka was there, brightening when she saw him. Ida sat ramrod straight in his seat, already in uniform. And in the back corner, glaring at everyone who looked in his direction, was Bakugo. Their eyes met across the room. Bakugo's expression darkened, but he didn't say anything. Good, maybe he really was learning. "Midoriya." Uraraka bounced over, smile radiant. "We're in the same class. Isn't that great?" "It is," Izuku agreed. "Congratulations on getting in, Fmop. I knew you would." She blushed. "You too, though I guess there was never any doubt for you. That thing you did with the zero-pointer was incredible." "Midoriya." Ida materialized beside them, chopping his hand through the air in that peculiar way of his. "I must apologize. I judged you at the entrance exam. I thought you were simply a show-off with a flashy quirk. But you saw what I did not, that the zero-pointer was a test of heroic spirit. You prioritized others, safety over points. It was most admirable." "I appreciate that, Ida, but you should probably sit down." The voice came from the doorway, gravelly and tired. Izuku turned to see a man in a sleeping bag on the floor, only his head visible. Dark hair, heavy stubble, eyes that looked perpetually exhausted. "It took you 8 seconds to quiet down after I arrived," the man said, somehow standing up while still inside the sleeping bag. "In the hero world, 8 seconds is the difference between life and death." He unzipped the sleeping bag and stepped out, revealing a disheveled appearance and capture weapon wrapped around his neck. "I'm Shota Aizawa, your homeroom teacher." The class stared. "Right. Let's get to it. Put these on." Aizawa pulled out a stack of gym uniforms and meet me outside. We're doing a quirk assessment test. But what about the entrance ceremony? The orientation, a girl with pink skin asked. If you want to be heroes, you don't have time for that nonsense. UA gives teachers complete discretion over their curriculum, so we're skipping the ceremony. Aizawa's smile was unsettling. Now get changed. You have 5 minutes. The class scrambled to comply. 10 minutes later, they stood on UA's training grounds in matching gym uniforms. Aizawa held up a device that looked like a phone. You've all been doing physical tests your whole lives, but you've never been allowed to use your quirks. That's a waste. So today, you'll redo 8 physical tests using your quirks however you want. He pointed at Bakugo. What was your best softball throw in middle school? 67 meters, Bakugo said immediately. Get in the circle. Use your quirk this time. Bakugo stepped into the marked circle, wound up, and launched the ball with a massive explosion. Die! The ball rocketed away, a trail of smoke marking its path. Aizawa held up the device. 705 meters. The class erupted in excited chatter. This is going to be so much fun. I can't wait to try. Aizawa's expression darkened. Fun? You think this is fun? His eyes flashed red and his hair lifted. Fine. New rule. Whoever places last in overall scores will be judged hopeless and expelled. Silence. Welcome to UA's hero course, Aizawa said flatly. Let's begin. The tests proceeded in order: 50-meter dash, grip strength, standing long jump, repeated side steps. Each time, students used their quirks creatively. A boy with a tail used it for balance and speed. A girl with earphone jacks used them as grappling hooks. Bakugo exploded his way to impressive scores across the board. And then it was Izuku's turn for the softball. He stepped into the circle, ball in hand, and closed his eyes. Problem, Midoriya? Aizawa called out. No, sensei. Just preparing. Izuku took a breath and prayed. Akarat, grant me strength. Golden light flickered around his body. Not armor, he didn't need the full manifestation for this. Just power. Just the light flowing through his muscles, enhancing every fiber. Fanaticism. His aura activated. The air around Izuku began to shimmer with heat. His eyes opened, glowing pure gold, and then he threw. The ball left his hand with a sound like a gunshot. Crack! It didn't arc. It didn't curve. It flew in a perfectly straight line, trailing golden fire, moving so fast it was barely visible. It punched through the sound barrier. Boom! The sonic boom washed over the class, nearly knocking several students off their feet. The ball continued, higher and higher, until it was just a glowing dot in the sky. Aizawa checked his device, then checked it again, then tapped it like it was broken. What's wrong, sensei? Izuku asked innocently. Aizawa turned the device around. On the screen was a single symbol, infinite, Aizawa said flatly. The ball hasn't come down, it's still going. The class exploded into chaos. What? How is that possible? Is his quirk strength? Bakugo stared at the sky where the ball had disappeared, fists clenched so tight his knuckles were white. Aizawa walked up to Izuku, eyes narrowed. Midoriya, I need you to stay very still. His eyes flashed red and his hair lifted again. The erasure activated. Izuku's golden glow got brighter. Aizawa's eyes widened. His quirk was working. He could feel it activating, could feel it trying to erase Izuku's power. But instead of shutting down, the light intensified, like the erasure was fuel rather than suppression. What? Aizawa blinked, and his quirk deactivated. What are you? A paladin, Izuku said calmly. Not someone with a quirk, sensei. I wield the light. It's not genetic. It's not biological. It's faith made manifest. You can't erase it any more than you could erase someone's will. For a long moment, Aizawa just stared at him. Then, incredibly, he smiled. Interesting. Very interesting. He turned to the rest of the class. Let that be a lesson. Quirks aren't everything. There are other kinds of power in this world. The tests continued. Izuku dominated every single one. In the 50-meter dash, he activated fanaticism and became a golden blur, crossing the distance in under 2 seconds. In grip strength, he manifested just his gauntlets and crushed the measuring device, maxing it out at 999 kilograms. In the long jump, he used shield charge and flew across the entire sand pit, a crater marking where he'd launched from. By the end, the results were clear. First place, Izuku Midoriya. Second place, Momo Yorozu, a tall girl with a creation quirk who'd been consistently impressive. Third place, Shoto Todoroki, a boy with heterochromatic eyes who'd used ice and fire to great effect. Fourth place, Katsuki Bakugo, who looked ready to murder someone. And in last place, Minoru Mineta, Aizawa said, consulting his device. 0 points in most tests, minimal quirk application, inappropriate behavior during the assessment. A short, purple-haired student began to panic. No, wait, I can do better. Give me another chance. However, Aizawa continued, and his smile was sharp, I lied. No one's getting expelled. It was a logical ruse to make sure you gave your best effort. The class's collective sigh of relief was audible. But Mineta, Aizawa's expression hardened. You're on thin ice. Improve, or next time it won't be a ruse. As the class filed back to the locker rooms, Izuku found himself walking beside Todoroki. The heterochromatic boy had been silent most of the day, but now he spoke. Midoriya. Yes, your power. It's not like anything I've seen before. Thank you? That wasn't a compliment, just an observation. Todoroki's expression was unreadable. I'll be watching you. He walked away before Izuku could respond, leaving the Paladin slightly confused. Don't mind him! Uraraka appeared at Izuku's elbow, smiling. Some people are just naturally intense. You were amazing today, by the way. That throw was incredible. You did well yourself, Izuku said. Your zero-gravity quirk has a lot of potential. Uraraka's blush returned full force. You really think so? Before Izuku could answer, a shadow fell over them both. Bakugo. Deku, he growled. We need to talk. Kachan. After school, training ground beta. Don't chicken out. Bakugo stalked away, explosions popping in his palms. Uraraka looked worried. Is he always like that with you? Izuku sighed. Unfortunately, but it's complicated. Well, if he gives you trouble, you just let me know. Uraraka's determination was fierce despite her small stature. Friends look out for each other. Friends. The word settled warm in Izuku's chest. When was the last time someone had called him that? Thank you, Uraraka. That means a lot. They walked back to the locker rooms together, and Izuku allowed himself a small smile. UA was already proving interesting. His classmates were talented, diverse, and some of them seemed genuinely kind. This was going to be a good year. He had no idea how right and how wrong that assessment would be. After school, Izuku made his way to Training Ground Beta as requested. The sun was setting, painting the fake cityscape in shades of orange and red. Bakugo was already there, pacing like a caged animal. Took you long enough, Deku. I came as quickly as I could, Kachan. What did you want to talk about? Talk? Bakugo's laugh was harsh. I don't want to talk. I want to fight. Before Izuku could respond, Bakugo launched himself forward, right hand extended, palm crackling with building explosion. Izuku didn't summon his armor. He simply sidestepped, grabbed Bakugo's wrist mid-lunge, and redirected the momentum. Bakugo went flying past, hit the ground, rolled, and came up swinging. Another explosion. Another dodge. Bakugo was fast, aggressive, pouring everything into his attacks. But Izuku had been training in combat for 6 years. He'd studied forms, practiced counters, learned to read an opponent's body language, and Bakugo was angry, which made him predictable. After 30 seconds of this, Izuku caught both of Bakugo's wrists. Kachan, stop. This isn't— Shut up! Bakugo struggled, setting off explosions point blank. The explosions washed over Izuku's hands harmlessly. The light protected him even without the armor, a thin shell of golden energy absorbing the blasts. You don't get it, Bakugo shouted, still fighting to break free. You were supposed to be nothing. Quirkless Deku, the loser, but now you're better than you? Izuku finished quietly. Bakugo flinched like he'd been slapped. I'm not better than you, Kachan, Izuku continued. I'm just different. You have an incredible quirk, amazing power. You could be a top hero if you learn to control your anger. I don't need advice from you. Then why did you want to fight? What are you trying to prove? Bakugo stopped struggling. For a moment, he just stood there, held by Izuku's unbreakable grip, chest heaving. I wanted to prove you were a fraud, he finally said, voice low. That your power was all flash, that I could still beat you. And now I know I was wrong. Bakugo looked up, and for the first time since they were children, there was no anger in his eyes. Just exhaustion. You're the real deal, aren't you? I am, Izuku said simply. He released Bakugo's wrists and stepped back. I trained for this, Kachan, every day for 6 years. I earned this power through blood and sweat and faith. It's as real as your explosions. Bakugo rubbed his wrists, explosions finally dying down. So what now? We supposed to be friends or something? We don't have to be friends, but we don't have to be enemies either. Izuku extended his hand. We're classmates now, future heroes. Maybe we could try coexistence? Bakugo stared at the offered hand like it might bite him. Then slowly, he reached out and shook it. Once. Brief but genuine. Fine. Coexistence. But don't think I'm giving up. Bakugo's competitive fire returned. I'm gonna get stronger. Strong enough to beat you. That's a promise. I'd expect nothing less, Izuku smiled. Competition makes us both better. Bakugo turned and walked away, hands in his pockets, but Izuku noticed the tension had left his shoulders. Progress. That was very mature of you. Izuku spun to find Aizawa sitting on a nearby wall, capture weapon draped around his neck. How long have you been there, sensei? Long enough. Aizawa hopped down. You could have destroyed him. Instead, you showed restraint. That's good. Heroes need to know when not to fight. I don't want to destroy anyone, Izuku said. I want to protect people, save them. That includes saving them from themselves sometimes. Aizawa studied him with those tired eyes. You're an odd one, Midoriya. Paladins, holy light, faith and conviction. It sounds like something out of a fantasy novel. And yet it works. And yet it works, Aizawa agreed. Which is why I'm going to be watching you very closely. Power like yours, it could save a lot of people, or hurt them if misused. I understand, sensei. Do you? Aizawa's expression was unrateable. I've been a hero for a long time, kid. I've seen people with incredible quirks lose themselves to power, become arrogant, reckless. You're already stronger than most pros. What's to stop you from going down that path? Izuku met his teacher's eyes without hesitation. My faith? The light demands righteousness, sensei. Justice, protection of the innocent. If I ever stray from that path, the light will abandon me. It's not unconditional power. It's a pact, a covenant. And if you break it, then I become quirkless again. Powerless. Just another kid. Izuku smiled slightly. The light keeps me honest. Aizawa stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Good answer. Get going, Midoriya. Classes start early tomorrow. Izuku bowed and headed toward the exit, leaving his teacher standing alone in the fading light. A paladin, Aizawa muttered to himself. This is going to be an interesting year. The first week of classes at UA passed in a blur of academic lessons and hero training. Izuku discovered quickly that while he excelled in hero training, the academic side was more challenging. Quirk law, hero history, mathematics, literature. Subjects that didn't care how strong you were or how much faith you had. Thankfully, he wasn't alone in struggling. I don't understand question 7 at all, Uraraka wailed during lunch, staring at her math homework like it had personally offended her. May I? Izuku leaned over, scanning the problem. Oh, it's asking for the coefficient. You solve for x first, then substitute back into the equation. Oh, that makes sense. You're really smart, Midoriya. Just good at math, Izuku said modestly. If you want smart, talk to Yaoyorozu. She's top of the class in everything. As if summoned, Momo Yaoyorozu appeared at their table, immaculate as always despite it being lunch hour. Midoriya, may I speak with you? Of course, Yaoyorozu. She sat down gracefully, and Izuku couldn't help but notice she was tall and elegant, with an air of nobility about her. I wanted to ask about your quirk, or rather, your not quirk. Momo's curiosity was genuine. You said it's faith-based. Does that mean anyone could learn it? Theoretically, yes, Izuku said. The chronicles suggest that anyone with sufficient conviction could become a paladin. It's not genetic. But, he paused, it requires absolute dedication, years of training, both physical and spiritual. Most people wouldn't be willing to commit to that. But you were. I didn't have a choice. It was this or remain quirkless. Momo nodded slowly. I see. And the armor you manifest, it's similar to my creation. You're not converting lipids into matter. Where does it come from? The light, Izuku said simply. It exists in a space between faith and reality. When I call upon it, it manifests. Fascinating. Momo pulled out a notebook and started writing. Would you mind if I studied your abilities? From a scientific perspective, I promise not to be intrusive. Izuku blinked. You want to study me? Your powers, specifically. I'm interested in the mechanics of non-quirk abilities. If they exist, it could revolutionize our understanding of human potential. I suppose that would be all right, as long as it doesn't interfere with training, Momo beamed. Excellent, thank you, Midoriya. She hurried off, already making notes, leaving Izuku slightly bemused. Uraraka giggled. I think you just made a friend. I'm not sure if I should be flattered or worried. Definitely flattered. Yaoyorozu is amazing, and she's really pretty too. Izuku looked at Uraraka, noting the slight edge in her voice. Was that jealousy? No, probably his imagination. The moment was interrupted by an announcement over the PA system. All students, please be advised. Tomorrow's hero training will be conducted by All Might. The lesson topic is combat training. That is all. The cafeteria erupted in excited chatter. All Might is teaching us? This is going to be incredible. Izuku smiled. He'd been wondering when he'd see the symbol of peace again. Tomorrow should be very interesting. The next day, Class 1A gathered in one of UA's massive training facilities. The space was designed to look like a city street, complete with buildings and alleyways, and standing at the front of the class, smile blazing, was All Might in full hero costume. I am here, coming through the door like a hero. The class went wild. All Might struck a pose. Welcome, students. Today's lesson is combat training. You'll be divided into teams of heroes and villains. Heroes must capture the villains or secure the weapon they're guarding. Villains must defend the weapon or capture the heroes. It's like the classic training exercise, but plus ultra. He gestured to the wall, where hero costumes waited in numbered compartments. These are the costumes you submitted requests for. Get changed and meet back here. You have 15 minutes. The class scrambled for the locker rooms. Excitement palpable, Izuku opened his compartment and found a note. Dear Midoriya, we received your costume request. However, we felt that providing a physical costume would be redundant given your manifestation abilities. Instead, we've included this medal as a symbol of UA's faith in you, support department. Attached to the note was a simple silver medal on a chain, engraved with UA's emblem on one side and the Zakarum sunburst on the other. Izuku smiled and put it on. The support department understood. He didn't need a costume, he had the light. When the class reconvened, the variety of costumes was impressive. Bakugo wore sleek black and orange with massive gauntlet grenades. Uraraka had a skin-tight suit in white and pink with a helmet that looked like a spacesuit. Ida was in armor with exhausts on his legs to enhance his quirk. Todoroki wore a simple white outfit with temperature regulators, and Izuku wore his gym uniform with the medal visible on his chest. Midoriya? All Might noticed. Where's your costume? I don't need one, sir. I have my armor. To demonstrate, golden light flared around his right arm, and the gauntlet manifested for a moment before fading. But the support department gave me this medal. I'll treasure it. All Might's smile softened. Very well, then let's begin. I'll draw lots to determine teams. The teams were announced. Team A, Izuku and Uraraka, heroes. Team D, Bakugo and Ida, villains. First match, Team A versus Team D. Heroes, you'll have 5 minutes to plan before entering the building. Villains, you have that time to set up your defense. The rest of you will watch from the observation room, plus ultra. In the observation room, the other students gathered around monitors showing multiple camera angles of the training building. This is going to be intense, Kirishima muttered. Bakugo and Midoriya have serious beef. Midoriya is stronger, Tokoyami observed. This fight won't be close. On one of the monitors, Bakugo was pacing in the room where the fake weapon was stored, explosions popping nervously in his palms. Kachan, Ida tried to calm him. We should formulate a strategy. Midoriya is extremely powerful, and I know how powerful he is, Bakugo snapped. That's why I'm going to end this quick. In the entrance of the building, Izuku and Uraraka planned. Your quirk makes things float, right? Izuku asked. Yep, anything I touch with all 5 fingers. Can you make me float? Uraraka blinked. I mean, yes, but why would... Oh, you want to bypass the floors. Exactly, make me weightless. I'll charge through the ceiling directly to the weapon room. You can come up behind me. That's actually brilliant, but what about Bakugo and Ida? Izuku's smile was confident. Leave them to me. Begin. All Might's voice boomed. Izuku turned to Uraraka. Touch my armor, all 5 fingers. Golden light erupted as Izuku manifested his full plate armor in a dazzling display. Uraraka gasped. She'd seen it from a distance at the entrance exam, but up close it was even more impressive. The craftsmanship, the holy symbols, the way light seemed to emanate from within the metal itself. She reached out with shaking fingers and touched the breastplate. Release. Izuku became weightless immediately. Shield charge. Even without gravity, the ability propelled him forward. Izuku shot through the building's entrance and immediately angled upward. He flew through the first floor ceiling like it was made of paper, then the second floor, then the third. In the weapon room, Bakugo heard the crashes getting closer. "He's coming through the floors," Ida shouted. Ida shouted, "Crash!" Izuku burst through the ceiling in an explosion of brie and golden light, armor gleaming, shield raised. He landed in the center of the room, or rather, floated. Still weightless from Uraraka's quirk, Bakugo didn't hesitate. "Die!" He launched himself at Izuku, both hands extended, setting off his biggest explosion yet. Boom! The room filled with fire and smoke. In the observation room, students flinched. "Is Midoriya okay?" Someone shouted. The smoke cleared. Izuku floated in the exact same position, shield raised, completely unharmed. The explosion had washed over his defiance aura like water over stone. "My turn," Izuku said. He dismissed Uraraka's zero gravity with a pulse of light, dropped to the ground, and charged. Bakugo tried to dodge, but Izuku was faster. A gauntleted hand grabbed the back of Bakugo's costume and slammed him into the floor. Not hard enough to injure, but hard enough to make a point. "Stay down, Kachan," Izuku said calmly. Bakugo struggled, setting off explosions, but Izuku's armored knee pressed into his back, pinning him. Ida tried to intervene, using his engine quirk to charge at high speed, but Izuku simply raised his shield without looking. Clang! Ida bounced off the blessed steel like a tennis ball, stumbled, and crashed into the wall. "Sorry, Ida," Izuku called out. "Nothing personal." Uraraka floated up through the hole Izuku had made, saw both villains incapacitated, and rushed to the weapon. "Weapon secured," she announced, touching it. "Hero team wins." All Might's voice boomed through the speakers. The match had lasted 45 seconds. In the observation room, stunned silence reigned. "That was," Kirishima started. "Overwhelming," Tokoyami finished. "He didn't even use any of his big abilities," Todoroki observed, eyes narrowed. "That was just armor and basic combat." Back in the training building, Izuku helped Bakugo to his feet. The explosive boy looked furious and embarrassed in equal measure. "You held back," Bakugo accused. "Of course I did. This is training, not a real fight." Izuku's tone was gentle. "You did well, Kachan. That opening explosion was smart. If my Defiance aura hadn't been active, it might have worked." Bakugo jerked away from Izuku's helping hand. "Don't patronize me." "I'm not. I'm being honest." Izuku turned to Ida, who was pulling himself out of the wall-shaped dent he'd made. "You all right, Ida?" Yes. Your reflexes are incredible, Midoriya. I didn't even see you raise that shield." "Lots of practice?" Izuku dismissed his armor in a flash of golden light. "Sorry for the rough treatment." All Might's voice came through the speakers again. "Excellent work, all four of you. Let's return to the observation room for analysis." As they walked back, Uraraka bounced excitedly beside Izuku. "That was amazing. We worked so well together. Your plan was perfect." "You did the hard part," Izuku said. "Making me weightless while I was in full armor? That must have been a huge mass." "It was," Uraraka admitted. "I'm already feeling a bit queasy, but it was worth it." They reached the observation room where All Might was preparing his analysis. "Now then, who can tell me the MVP of that match?" Yaoyorozu's hand shot up. "Midoriya. And why is that?" He formulated a strategy that utilized both team members' quirks optimally, executed it flawlessly, neutralized both opponents without causing serious injury, and secured the objective in under a minute. Textbook perfect. All Might nodded approvingly. "Exactly right, young Yaoyorozu. Young Midoriya demonstrated not just power, but tactical thinking. That's what separates good heroes from great ones." The rest of the matches proceeded, but none were quite as dramatic as the first. Team B, Todoroki and someone else, froze the entire building and won in 90 seconds. Team C had a closer match, with actual back-and-forth combat. Throughout it all, Izuku watched his classmates carefully, analyzing their quirks, their tactics, their strengths and weaknesses. Not to exploit them, but to understand them. These were his future allies. Knowing their capabilities could save lives someday. After class, as students filed out, All Might called out, "Young Midoriya, a moment." Izuku hung back as the others left. Once they were alone, All Might deflated into his skinny form. "That was impressive today," Toshinori said in his raspy voice. "You've gotten even stronger since the entrance exam." "Constant training," Izuku said. "The light rewards dedication." "I wanted to ask, are you sure you don't want one for all? You're already powerful, yes, but with my quirk added to your abilities, you could be unstoppable." Izuku smiled gently. All Might, I appreciate the offer, truly. But One for All is meant for someone who needs it. I don't. Find someone quirkless, someone who dreams of being a hero but lacks the means. Give them the chance I created for myself. Toshinori studied him for a long moment. You're very mature for 15. I had to grow up fast. Still, Toshinori looked conflicted. I need a successor, someone to carry on the symbol of peace. You have the power, the presence, the heroic spirit. You're perfect. I'm a paladin, Izuku said firmly. Not the symbol of peace. That's not my path. My calling is different, to protect the innocent, to strike down evil, to be a shield for those who can't defend themselves. I don't need to be the number one hero. I just need to fulfill my purpose. Toshinori sighed but smiled. You're going to make me find someone else, aren't you? I am, but when you do, I'll support them. We'll be allies. Fair enough, young Midoriya. Fair enough. They parted ways, and Izuku headed toward the locker rooms. But as he walked through the empty hallway, he noticed someone waiting, Todoroki. The heterochromatic boy leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Midoriya. Todoroki, can I help you? Your power. It's not genetic, you said. Not passed down through family. That's correct. Then you earned it through effort alone. Yes. Todoroki's expression was complex. Respect, envy, and something else Izuku couldn't identify. I see. That must be freeing. Before Izuku could ask what he meant, Todoroki pushed off the wall and walked away, leaving the paladin confused but curious. There was clearly a story there, the Rifti, and knowing Yue's tendency to throw students into situations that forced growth, Izuku had a feeling he'd learn it eventually. The weekend arrived, giving Class 1A a brief respite from the intensity of hero training. Izuku spent Saturday morning in his usual routine, 5 a.m. wake-up, prayers to Akarat, 3 hours of physical training in a nearby park. Even with the light enhancing his body, he never skipped the fundamentals. The flesh was still mortal. It needed to be maintained. He was in the middle of his sword forms, practicing with a wooden training blade when his phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Midoriya, it's Uraraka. I got your number from Ida. I hope that's okay. Want to meet up for lunch? Some of us are getting together. Izuku smiled and typed back. Sure. Where and when? The response came immediately. There's a cafe near the station, 12:30. Ida, Yaoyorozu, and a few others will be there. Socializing. That was new. In middle school, Izuku had been a pariah, but here at UA, with his power revealed and respected, people actually wanted to spend time with him. It was nice. At 12:30, Izuku arrived at the cafe to find a group already gathered. Uraraka, Ida, Yaoyorozu, and surprisingly, Todoroki sat at a large table. Midoriya, Uraraka waved enthusiastically. Over here, Izuku joined them, taking the seat next to Yaoyorozu. Thank you for coming, Momo said politely. I know socializing isn't mandatory, but building relationships with classmates is important for hero work. Plus it's fun, Uraraka added. We can't just train all the time. Indeed, Ida chopped his hand through the air. A healthy work-life balance is essential for maintaining peak performance. Todoroki said nothing, just sipped his soba quietly. They ordered food and fell into easy conversation. Well, most of them did. Todoroki remained largely silent, observing rather than participating. So, Midoriya, Yaoyorozu said between bites of her salad, I've been researching religious warrior traditions, Knights Templar, Teutonic Knights, even Shaolin monks, but I can't find any reference to paladins outside of fantasy fiction. Where exactly does your tradition come from? Izuku chose his words carefully. Another world, a place called Sanctuary. The book I found describes it in detail, a realm where angels and demons war and humanity is caught in between. Another world? Like a parallel dimension? Possibly, or it could be metaphorical. The book itself is unusual. It appeared in a library where it shouldn't exist, written in a language that shifts to be readable. I don't fully understand its origin. Fascinating. Momo pulled out her notebook. And you're certain you're the only paladin on Earth? As far as I know, the chronicles suggest that paladins were common in Sanctuary, but the tradition died out here, if it ever existed here at all. So you might be the first, Uraraka said, eyes wide. That's so cool, you're like a pioneer. Or an anomaly, Izuku said wryly. I haven't decided which. Todoroki spoke up for the first time. Sterk, your power can't be stolen or copied. It wasn't a question, but Izuku answered anyway. Correct, it's not genetic, so quirk copying abilities wouldn't work. And it's tied to faith, so unless someone else swore the same oaths and trained the same way, they couldn't replicate it. That makes you unique, Todoroki said quietly. In a world where quirks can be analyzed, countered, even stolen, you're immune to all of that. There was something in his tone. Envy? Admiration? Before Izuku could probe further, the cafe door chimed and a new group entered. Bakugo, along with Kirishima, Kaminari, and Ashido. The two groups spotted each other immediately. For a moment, tension filled the air. Then, Kirishima broke it with his sharp-toothed grin. Yo! Mind if we join you guys? Uraraka glanced at Izuku, who nodded slightly. Sure, pull up some chairs. The groups merged and the dynamic shifted. Kirishima was aggressively friendly, asking Izuku about his training regimen. Kaminari wanted to know if Holy Lightning was different from electric quirks. Ashido just thought the whole Paladin thing was super aesthetic. Bakugo sat as far from Izuku as possible and glared at his food, but he didn't leave. As the afternoon wore on and the conversation flowed, Izuku felt something unfamiliar settle in his chest. Belonging. These people weren't afraid of him. They weren't mocking him or calling him useless. They were treating him like one of them, like a friend. You know, Uraraka said, leaning close enough that Izuku caught a whiff of her perfume, something sweet and floral. I'm really glad we're in the same class. Me too, Izuku said honestly. She blushed and looked away quickly, playing with her napkin. Across the table, Yaoyorozu watched the interaction with an unreadable expression. The peaceful weekend ended, and Monday brought a new challenge. Today's hero training will be a little different, Aizawa announced to Class 1A. You'll be going on a field trip to the USJ, the Unforeseen Simulation Joint. It's a training facility designed for disaster rescue. The class buzzed with excitement. You'll be working with 3 heroes today. Myself, All Might, and... The door slid open, revealing a figure in a bulky spacesuit. 13, the space hero. 13 waved cheerfully. Hello, everyone. I'm looking forward to working with you. Excited whispers filled the room. 13 was a famous rescue hero known for using their black hole quirk to save people from disasters. Load onto the bus, Aizawa instructed. We leave in 5 minutes. The bus ride to the USJ was loud and chaotic, with students chattering about the upcoming training. Izuku found himself seated next to Tsuyu Asui, a girl with a frog mutation quirk. Midoriya, Ribbit, Tsuyu said in her characteristically blunt way, your quirk is really strong, but it's also kind of flashy. Do you ever worry about collateral damage? It was a fair question. I do, that's why I train for precision. The light can be overwhelming, but I can also focus it down to a pinpoint. Control is just as important as power. That's very responsible, Ribbit. The bus pulled up to the USJ, a massive dome structure that probably cost more than Izuku's entire neighborhood. The class filed out, staring in awe at the building. This place is huge. I wonder what kind of disasters they've simulated. They entered through the main doors and found themselves on a raised plaza overlooking multiple disaster zones. A flood zone, a landslide zone, a fire zone, and more. All separated by carefully designed terrain. 13 began their orientation speech. Welcome to the USJ. Here you'll learn that being a hero isn't just about fighting villains. It's about saving people from natural disasters, accidents, and... The lights flickered. A cold wind that shouldn't exist indoors swept through the facility, and in the center plaza below, a swirling purple-black portal opened. Figures began emerging. Dozens of them. People in mismatched clothing, some with obvious mutation quirks, all of them radiating hostile intent. Stay together. Aizawa's capture weapon was already unfurling from his neck. 13. Protect the students. Is this part of the training? Kirishima asked. Then Izuku saw him, a man covered in disembodied hands, one obscuring his face. Even from this distance, Izuku could feel the wrongness radiating from him. This wasn't a quirk aura. This was corruption, darkness, evil. Those are villains, Izuku said, his voice cutting through the confusion. Real ones. The class froze. From the portal stepped 2 more figures. A massive creature with an exposed brain and a bird-like beak. Izuku's instincts screamed danger when he looked at it. And a man made of purple mist, elegant and refined. The hand-covered villain spoke, his voice carrying across the facility. Where is he? We came all this way, and All Might isn't even here. Aizawa's eyes widened. They're here for All Might. Everyone, retreat. 13, get them out of here. but before anyone could move, the mist villain appeared in front of them, blocking the exit. "I'm afraid I cannot allow that," the refined voice said. "We are the League of Villains. We have come to end the symbol of peace, and we cannot have witnesses escaping." The mist expanded, preparing to warp them away. Izuku stepped forward. Golden light erupted from his body as his armor manifested in a brilliant flash. The plate settled into place, the tabard snapped in an impossible wind, and his shield materialized with the sound of divine thunder. "Get behind me," Izuku commanded, and his voice carried absolute authority. The students scrambled to obey. The mist villain paused. "Oh, and what do we have here?" "I am Izuku Midoriya," the paladin said, raising his shield. "First paladin of Earth, servant of the light, and you will not touch my classmates." "Midoriya, don't!" Aizawa started forward. "You can't." The mist rushed forward, attempting to engulf Izuku and scatter the students. Izuku slammed his shield into the ground. "Consecration!" Holy fire erupted across the plaza in a wave of golden light. Where it touched the purple mist, the villain's form sizzled and recoiled. "Ah, what is this? It burns." "The light," Izuku said calmly, "the purifying flame of conviction. Darkness cannot stand against it." Down in the central plaza, the hand-covered villain, Shigaraki Tomura, tilted his head. "Interesting. Kurogiri, fall back. Let me see this." The mist villain retreated, wisps of smoke rising from where the consecrated ground had touched him. Aizawa turned to 13. "Get the students out. I'm going down there." "Sensei," Izuku said, "let me help." "Absolutely not. You're a student. I'm the pro hero. That's final." Izuku wanted to argue, but Aizawa was already leaping down to the central plaza, capture weapon flying. "Everyone this way." 13 ushered the students toward the emergency exit, but Izuku stood still, eyes fixed on the central plaza where Aizawa was engaging dozens of villains simultaneously. The teacher was skilled. His capture weapon immobilized enemies while his erasure quirk neutralized their powers. But there were so many, and that brain-exposed creature hadn't moved yet. Izuku's instincts screamed. 13, get everyone out, he said quietly. "Midoriya, you heard Aizawa. That thing in the center. The big one with the exposed brain." Izuku's hands tightened on his shield. "It's wrong, corrupted, and it's about to move." As if on cue, Shigaraki pointed at Aizawa. "Nomu, kill the erasure hero." The creature moved. It crossed the distance to Aizawa in less than a second, a blur of black muscle and killing intent. One massive fist swung, and Aizawa barely dodged, the punch cratering the ground where he'd stood. "That's no normal villain," 13 breathed. Aizawa tried to erase the creature's quirk, his eyes glowing red. The Nomu paused for a moment, then continued attacking as if nothing had happened. "Multiple quirks," Aizawa grunted, dodging another strike. "Shock absorption, super strength, regeneration. Damn it!" The Nomu's fist connected with Aizawa's side. Crack! The teacher went flying, crashed into a wall, and slumped. "Sensei!" Izuku's classmates screamed. Shigaraki laughed. "See? Your teachers are nothing special. Just flesh and bone. But don't worry, we'll kill you all nice and quick." He never finished the sentence because Izuku Midoriya activated Falling Star. Golden wings exploded from the paladin's back, massive and radiant, and he launched himself off the plaza. Not toward the exit, toward the central plaza, toward the Nomu. "Midoriya, no!" 13 shouted, but it was too late. Izuku rose into the air like a comet, golden fire trailing behind him, and at the apex of his flight, he looked down at the League of Villains with eyes that burned like stars. "You dare harm my teacher?" His voice boomed across the facility, enhanced by the light to carry divine authority. "You dare threaten my classmates?" The wings folded. Izuku dove. He fell like the wrath of God, like divine judgment made manifest, and the Nomu, the creature designed to kill All Might himself, looked up with its dead eyes and probably felt fear for the first time in its artificial life. Impact. Izuku struck the Nomu with both feet, and the sheer kinetic energy transferred was catastrophic. The ground beneath the creature didn't crack. It exploded. A crater 40 feet across and 10 feet deep opened up in an instant, earth and stone vaporized by holy fire. The Nomu was driven into the ground so hard it created a second crater beneath the first. And Izuku stood atop the creature's chest, armor blazing with golden light, shield raised high. "Smite!" Lightning fell from the heavens. A pillar of pure divine electricity connected sky to earth, and the Nomu was at ground zero. The creature's scream was inhuman, agonized, as holy lightning burned through its shock absorption, its regeneration, every enhanced quirk it possessed. When the lightning faded, the Nomu lay smoking in the crater, twitching but not rising. Izuku turned to face Shigaraki and Kurogiri. "Your monster is defeated," the Paladin said, raising his mace. "Surrender. Or join it." In the observation room of the USJ, because of course there was one, every alarm was screaming. Security footage showed the impossible. A first-year student standing victorious over a creature designed to rival All Might. And in the plaza where Class 1A huddled behind 13, absolute silence reigned as they watched their classmate, wreathed in holy fire, face down an entire villain organization alone. "Is he insane?" Kaminari whispered. "He's incredible," Yaoyorozu breathed. Uraraka's hands covered her mouth, torn between terror and awe. And Bakugo, for once in his life, had nothing to say. He just stared at the golden figure standing in the crater, and something in his chest tightened with an emotion he couldn't name. Down in the central plaza, Shigaraki scratched at his neck nervously. He's just a student, just a kid. He shouldn't be able to." "Young master," Kurogiri said carefully, "perhaps we should retreat. The Nomu is our trump card, and—" "No!" Shigaraki's voice rose to a shriek. I don't lose to some self-righteous brat in cosplay armor. Villains! Kill him! Kill the Paladin!" The remaining villains, maybe 40 of them, charged at Izuku from all directions. Izuku closed his eyes and prayed, "Akarat, grant me the strength to protect the innocent. Grant me the power to strike down evil. Let the light shine in this place of darkness." His eyes opened, glowing pure gold. Heaven's fury. The concentrated beams of a divine light that erupted from Izuku's body weren't like his previous displays. This was the light at its fullest, channeled with absolute conviction and righteous fury. 12 beams of concentrated radiance shot outward from Izuku as the center point. Each beam was as thick as a telephone pole, burning with heat that made the air shimmer. They swept across the battlefield like the arms of some divine creature, and wherever they touched a villain, that villain went down. Some were merely knocked unconscious by the impact, the light holding back from lethal force. Others with mutation quirks that made them more monstrous than human found those mutations burned away temporarily, reduced to their base human forms. The beams lasted for 5 seconds. When they faded, 40 villains lay unconscious around Izuku in a perfect circle. The Paladin stood alone in the center, armor gleaming, and turned his golden gaze to Shigaraki and Kurogiri. "Just us now," Izuku said, taking a step forward. "Clang. Surrender. I won't ask again." Shigaraki's scratching intensified, tearing at his neck until blood ran down. "No, no, 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 no! This isn't how it's supposed to go. You're ruining everything." He lunged forward with terrifying speed, hands outstretched. Izuku had learned in his research that Shigaraki's quirk, Decay, would disintegrate anything he touched with all 5 fingers. So Izuku didn't let him touch the armor. He swung his shield in a brutal arc. "Shield bash!" The blessed steel caught Shigaraki in the chest before the villain could make contact. The impact lifted Shigaraki off his feet and sent him flying backward 30 feet. He hit the ground, rolled, and came up coughing blood. "Kurogiri!" Shigaraki wheezed. "Do something!" The mist villain warped in behind Izuku, preparing to engulf him and scatter his body parts across the facility. But Izuku had fought demons in his meditations, had trained against impossible odds in his visualizations. He'd learned to sense malice, to feel the presence of evil. He spun and thrust his mace into the center of Kurogiri's mist. Purify. Divine light exploded through the mist villain's form. Kurogiri screamed, a sound like tearing metal, and solidified partially. Izuku caught a glimpse of a physical body hidden in the mist, a metal collar around a neck, yellow eyes wide with pain. "Your darkness cannot hide from the light," Izuku said, and he swung his mace again. Clang! The metal collar dented under the impact, and Kurogiri's mist form destabilized completely. The villain collapsed into a semi-solid pile, unconscious. Shigaraki was alone now, his trump cards defeated, his army unconscious, his escape route disabled. "This can't be happening," he muttered, stumbling backward. "You're just a student, just a kid. I'm supposed to kill All Might. I'm supposed to show the world that heroes can die, that the symbol of peace is just a man. That's my purpose. That's why, Sensei." "Your purpose is empty," Izuku interrupted, advancing step by step. "You serve darkness, chaos, destruction. The light stands against all of that." Shigaraki's hand shot out, grabbing a piece of rubble, which immediately disintegrated. "Stay back! I'll kill you. I'll disintegrate your armor and then your flesh, and then..." Izuku's hand shot out faster than Shigaraki could react and grabbed the villain's wrist. The Paladin's gauntlet glowed with inner light, and where his fingers pressed against Shigaraki's skin, the villain's quirk simply stopped working. "Blessed steel," Izuku explained calmly. "Immune to corruption. Your decay cannot touch it." Shigaraki's eyes widened behind the hand covering his face. What are you?" "I am a paladin," Izuku said, and he slammed Shigaraki into the ground with enough force to crack the concrete, but not enough to kill. "I am the light's judgment, and you are defeated." The villain tried to struggle, tried to activate his quirk, tried to escape, but Izuku's armored knee pressed into his back, pinning him as surely as if he were buried under a mountain. It was over. The League of Villains' attack on the USJ had failed completely, and standing victorious atop the unconscious villain leader, the first-year student who should never have been able to do this alone, Izuku Midoriya dismissed his armor in a flash of golden light and immediately staggered. Adrenaline had carried him through the fight. Faith had fueled his abilities, but he was still 15 years old and he'd just fought an entire villain organization by himself. His legs gave out. Strong hands caught him before he hit the ground. "Easy, young Midoriya. I've got you." All Might had arrived, finally, too late to help, but in time to see the aftermath. The symbol of peace stared at the scene of devastation. Unconscious villains scattered like leaves, the crater where the Nomu lay smoking, the broken form of Shigaraki Tomura pinned under capture weapons that Aizawa had managed to apply with the last of his strength. "You..." All Might looked at Izuku with something like awe. "You stopped them all." "Had to," Izuku mumbled, exhaustion crashing over him. "They threatened my classmates, my teacher. Couldn't let them." His eyes closed. "Sleep, young Midoriya," All Might said gently, lifting the boy in his arms like he weighed nothing. "You've done enough, more than enough." Medical teams arrived within minutes, along with what seemed like every pro hero in the prefecture. The students were checked for injuries and given medical treatment. Aizawa was rushed to the hospital with several broken ribs and a concussion, and Izuku Midoriya was laid on a stretcher, still unconscious, while Recovery Girl examined with pursed lips. "Quirk exhaustion?" one of the medics asked. "He doesn't have a quirk," Recovery Girl corrected. "This is something else. Faith exhaustion, maybe? I've never seen anything like it." She placed a gentle hand on Izuku's forehead and her quirk activated. The boy's color improved slightly, but he didn't wake. "He'll be fine," Recovery Girl announced. "He just needs rest. What he did today..." She looked at the crater, the unconscious villains, the devastation. "What he did today should have been impossible for a student, but he did it anyway." In the observation room where Class 1A had gathered, waiting for news, Uraraka sat with her face in her hands. "He could have died," she whispered. He just jumped down there alone. What if..." "But he didn't," Yaoyorozu said firmly, though her own hands were shaking. "He won. He protected all of us." "That's so manly," Kirishima pumped his fist. "Did you see him standing on that monster thing? That was the most heroic thing I've ever seen." Even Bakugo was silent. Hyunjio, staring at his hands. Hands that produced explosions, hands that he'd thought made him the strongest. But watching Izuku stand alone against an entire villain organization, watching him call down literal divine lightning, watching him win, Bakugo realized something that sat like lead in his stomach. Izuku Midoriya wasn't just stronger than him. Izuku Midoriya might be the strongest person in their entire class. Maybe in the entire school, and Bakugo had spent years calling him worthless. "Damn it," Bakugo muttered so quietly no one heard. "Damn it, Deku." 3 days later, Izuku woke up in the nurse's office at UA. Recovery Girl was there immediately, checking his vital signs. "Welcome back, young man. How do you feel?" "Tired," Izuku admitted. "Sore. Like I ran a marathon and then got hit by a truck." "That's about right," Recovery Girl said with a slight smile. "You pushed yourself past your limits. Your body needs time to recover." "My classmates? Aizawa-sensei?" "Everyone's fine. Aizawa has some broken ribs and will need a few weeks to heal fully, but nothing permanent. Your classmates have some bruises and trauma, but they'll recover. Thanks to you." Izuku tried to sit up. "The villains?" All in custody. The one called Shigaraki is in maximum security along with the Nomu creature. The mist villain, Kurogiri, is being interrogated. The others are going to Tartarus prison. Relief flooded through Izuku. Good. That's good. You saved lives that day, Midoriya, Recovery Girl said seriously. If you hadn't been there, if you hadn't fought, the casualty count could have been catastrophic. The faculty wants to thank you. The other students want to see you. And the media, she sighed. The media is calling you the Holy Knight of UA. Your face is all over the news. Izuku groaned. Of course it is. Rest today. Tomorrow you can return to class. But take it easy, you hear me? No training for at least a week. A week? 1 week. Recovery Girl's tone brooked no argument. Doctor's orders. She left, and Izuku lay back down, staring at the ceiling. He'd done it. He'd protected his classmates, defeated the villains, proven that the light could stand against darkness. But the cost... Izuku raised his hand, and it shook slightly. The exhaustion went deeper than muscles. It was in his spirit, his faith, the very core of what powered his abilities. He'd drawn on the light so heavily that it would take time to fully recover. A week without training. Fine. He could use that time to meditate, to study, to rebuild his spiritual reserves. A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. Come in, Izuku called. The door opened and his entire class poured in. Uraraka led the charge, practically throwing herself at his bed. Midoriya! You're awake! We were so worried! Ida stood at attention. Midoriya! Your actions were incredibly reckless, but also incredibly heroic. I'm torn between scolding you and thanking you. Just thank him, Yaoyorozu suggested, smiling. He saved us all. The rest of the class crowded around, Kirishima grinning, Kaminari giving a thumbs up, Ashido bouncing excitedly, Tokoyami nodding solemnly, even Todoroki standing in the back with something that might have been respect in his eyes. And in the doorway, arms crossed, not quite entering but not quite leaving, and it stood Bakugo. Their eyes met. Bakugo's jaw tightened. Then, so quietly Izuku almost missed it, the explosive boy said 2 words. Thanks, Deku. Then he turned and left before anyone could comment. Izuku smiled. Progress. Definite progress. Guys, Izuku said to the assembled class, thank you for coming, but I'm okay. Really. Just tired. We know, Uraraka said, and she was still standing close to his bed, hands clasped. We wanted to see for ourselves. When you jumped down there, when you fought all alone, we thought... She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. I had to, Izuku said simply. The light demands protection of the innocent. You're my classmates, my friends. I couldn't let them hurt you. Friends, Uraraka repeated, and her smile was brilliant despite the tears gathering in her eyes. Yeah, we're friends. Yaoyorozu stepped forward. Midoriya, I took the liberty of taking notes during your fight. For research purposes. I hope you don't mind, but I wanted to ask, when you purified the mist villain, were you targeting his physical form or his quirk itself? And just like that, the mood lightened as Yaoyorozu launched into questions, Kaminari made jokes, and the class surrounded their classmate, who'd become a hero in the truest sense. Later, after visiting hours ended and everyone left, Izuku lay in the quiet darkness of the nurse's office and felt the light pulse gently within him. He'd passed a test today. Not the USJ attack, that was just a fight. The real test was whether he could stay true to his principles under pressure, whether he could protect without killing, whether he could be the shield and the hammer simultaneously. He'd succeeded. But this was only the beginning. The League of Villains was in custody, but their leader, the one Shigaraki had mentioned, his sensei, was still out there. And they'd targeted UA specifically, targeted All Might specifically. Darkness was gathering. And Izuku Midoriya, first Paladin of Earth, would need to be ready. But for now, he would rest, rebuild his strength. And when he returned to class, he would continue on the path the light had set before him. The path of the hero. The path of the Paladin. Izuku learned that truth the moment he tried to stand up from the hospital bed the next morning. His legs buckled immediately, and he crashed back onto the mattress with a grunt. Okay, he muttered to the empty room. Maybe Recovery Girl was right about the rest thing. His body felt like it had been put through a meat grinder. Every muscle ached. His spiritual reserves, the well of faith and conviction that powered the light, felt scraped raw. He'd drawn too deeply at the USJ, pushed too hard against the Nomu and the League of Villains. Worth it, though. His classmates were safe. That's all that mattered. The door burst open, and Izuku barely had time to register the movement before Uraraka practically flew into the room. "Midoriya! You're awake! I brought you!" "Oh." She skidded to a halt, cheeks flushing red. "Sorry, I should have knocked. I just heard from Recovery Girl that you were up and I got excited and—" "It's fine, Uraraka," Izuku smiled, genuinely happy to see her. "What did you bring?" She held up a small bag. "Snacks. I figured hospital food is probably terrible and you need to rebuild your strength, so I got your favorites from the convenience store. The spicy chicken ones you mentioned liking that one time during lunch." Izuku blinked. "You remembered that?" Her blush deepened. "Of course I did. We're friends, right? Friends remember things." Friends. There was that word again, but the way she said it carried weight, like it meant more than just classmates or acquaintances. Like it meant something deeper. Before Izuku could process that thought, more visitors arrived. Ida came through the door at his usual brisk pace, followed by Yaoyorozu, Todoroki, and surprisingly, Kirishima and Kaminari. "Midoriya!" Ida's hand chopped through the air. "I must apologize for not visiting sooner. I was coordinating with the faculty to ensure all our classmates received proper psychological counseling after the traumatic events." "It's fine, Ida. I wasn't expecting." "You saved my life," Todoroki interrupted, his mismatched eyes intense. "The Nomu would have killed me if you hadn't intervened. I owe you a debt." "You don't owe me anything," Izuku said firmly. "That's what heroes do. We protect people." Yaoyorozu stepped forward, notebook already in hand. "Midoriya, if you're feeling up to it, I had some questions about the combat applications of your abilities. The way you switched between defensive and offensive auras mid-combat was remarkable. The tactical implications." "Yaomomo, maybe let him breathe first?" Kirishima laughed. "Dude just woke up from fighting an entire villain organization solo. That's the manliest thing I've ever seen, by the way. When you called down that lightning and just boom." He made exaggerated hand gestures. "That was insane!" "The whole country's talking about it," Kaminari added, pulling out his phone. "Dude, you're famous. Like, famous. Famous. Look at this." He showed Izuku the screen. The headline read, "Holy Knight of UA destroys League of Villains single-handedly." Below it was a photo, somehow captured by a security camera, of Izuku standing atop the defeated Nomu, armor blazing with golden light, divine fire flickering around him like wings. He looked powerful, heroic, nothing like the quirkless kid who'd been bullied for years. "There's more," Kaminari scrolled. "Look at the view counts on the videos. 30 million views in 3 days. People are calling you the next All Might. Some are saying you're better than All Might because you actually won without getting hurt." I'm not better than All Might," Izuku protested. "He's the symbol of peace. He saved thousands of lives over decades. You soloed a Nomu designed to kill All Might," Todoroki said bluntly, "in under a minute, then you defeated 40 villains, then you beat the League's leader and their escape specialist. The comparison is fair." Izuku didn't know what to say to that. Uraraka saved him by physically pushing Kaminari's phone away. "Okay, enough about the news. Midoriya needs to rest, not stress about publicity." "Actually," a new voice cut in from the doorway, "Midoriya needs to prepare for publicity. It's unavoidable now." Principal Nedzu stood there, small and furry, and somehow more intimidating than his size suggested. His beady eyes gleamed with intelligence. "Everyone out except Midoriya," Nedzu commanded. "We have matters to discuss." The students filed out reluctantly, Uraraka giving Izuku one last concerned look before the door closed. Nedzu hopped onto the chair beside the bed. "First things first, how are you feeling?" Truthfully. "Exhausted. Sore. Like I pushed too hard." "You did push too hard. Recovery Girl estimates you depleted your, let's call them spiritual reserves, by 90%. That level of exhaustion could have killed someone with a normal quirk. But you're not normal, are you?" "No," Izuku admitted. "I'm not. The League of Villains attacked UA specifically to kill All Might," Nedzu continued. "They brought a Nomu engineered to counter his abilities. They had dozens of villains. They had Shigaraki Tamura, successor to All for One himself, and you defeated them all." All for One. Izuku had heard that name before in his research. The ancient villain, the symbol of evil, the man who'd nearly killed All Might years ago. "I did what I had to do," Izuku said simply. "And that's why we have a problem." Nedzu's smile was sharp. "You're too valuable now. The media wants interviews. Hero agencies are already calling, wanting you for internships despite you being a first year. The Hero Public Safety Commission wants to meet you. And Nedzu's expression darkened. The villains know about you now. You humiliated the League of Villains. You destroyed their Nomu. You captured their leader. They will come for you. Let them come. Nedzu studied him for a long moment. You're not afraid. I am afraid, Izuku corrected. But fear doesn't control me. The light does, and the light doesn't run from darkness. Spoken like a true paladin, Nedzu chuckled. Very well. Here's what's going to happen. You'll have 1 week to recover fully, no training, doctor's orders. During that time, the media circus will die down slightly. When you return to class, you'll be under additional security. Thus, the school will also be implementing new safety measures. Is that necessary? After what happened? Absolutely. Nedzu hopped down from the chair. Rest, young Midoriya. You've earned it. And when you return, we have much to discuss about your future. The principal left, and Izuku was alone with his thoughts. Famous. The word felt foreign. He'd spent his whole life invisible, ignored, mocked. Now the entire country knew his name, knew his face, knew what he could do. Was this what All Might felt like? This pressure, this weight of expectations? Izuku closed his eyes and reached inward, feeling for the light. It was there, always there, but dimmed. Flickering like a candle in strong wind instead of the bonfire it usually was. He began to pray quietly, the words of the Paladin's oath flowing from memory. I am the light in the darkness. I am the shield before the weak. I am the hammer of justice. The light responded, warming slightly. Not much, but enough. Enough to remind him that he wasn't alone. That the power he wielded came from something greater than himself. That as long as his conviction remained pure, the light would never abandon him. He would recover. He would return to class. He would continue training. And when darkness came again, because it always did, he would be ready. The week of forced rest was torture. Izuku spent the first 2 days sleeping, his body demanding recovery time. The next 3 days he spent meditating, rebuilding his spiritual reserves through prayer and contemplation. By the 6th day, he was going stir-crazy. I could do light exercises, he suggested to Recovery Girl. No. Just some stretches. No. What about sword forms without a weapon? Just the movements? Recovery Girl gave him a look that could have stripped paint off walls. Young man, if I catch you doing anything more strenuous than walking to the bathroom, I will put you in a full body cast. Do I make myself clear? Yes, ma'am, Izuku mumbled. His classmates visited regularly. Ida brought notes from the classes he'd missed. Yaoyorozu brought more research questions that Izuku answered to the best of his ability. Kirishima and Kaminari brought jokes and terrible attempts at card tricks to keep him entertained. And Uraraka came every day, always with snacks, always with a smile, always staying just a bit longer than the others. On the 5th day, she arrived alone. Where's everyone else? Izuku asked as she settled into the chair beside his bed. Gave them the slip, Uraraka grinned. Told them I needed to grab something from the cafeteria. Figured we could use some one-on-one time. Oh, okay. Why did that make his heart rate increase? What did you want to talk about? Her expression turned serious. About what you did at the USJ. You jumped into a fight against an entire villain organization? Uraraka interrupted. Alone, without backup. You could have died, Midoriya. But I didn't. But you could have. Her hands clenched in her lap. I was so scared. Watching you fight that monster, watching you stand against all those villains, I thought I was going to watch you die. Uraraka, let me finish. She took a deep breath. I've been thinking about this all week. About why it scared me so much. About why I can't stop thinking about you. About why my heart does this weird fluttery thing whenever you smile. Oh. And I realized, Uraraka continued, her cheeks turning bright pink but her eyes locked on his, that I like you. Not as a classmate, not as a friend. I like you as more than that. The room felt too small suddenly, too warm. I know this is probably terrible timing, she rushed on, words tumbling out. You're recovering and you're dealing with all this fame stuff and you're probably not interested anyway because you're focused on being a hero and I'm just rambling now, aren't I? Uraraka, Izuku interrupted gently. Breathe. She sucked in a breath. Izuku struggled for words. He'd trained for combat, for tactics, for channeling divine power. Nobody had prepared him for this. I don't know what to say. Her face fell slightly. Not because I'm not interested, he added quickly, but because nobody's ever, he sighed. Before UA, I was quirkless, worthless. The idea that someone like you, someone strong and kind and amazing, could like someone like me, it's... Someone like you? Uraraka's expression shifted to indignation. Midoriya, you're incredible. You're the strongest person in our class. You're kind and protective, and you risk your life for others without hesitation. How could I not like you? I'm also completely focused on becoming the best hero I can be, Izuku said honestly. The light demands my dedication, my training, my faith, my purpose. It all revolves around that. I don't know if I have room for a relationship. Uraraka's smile was sad but understanding. I get it. Hero work comes first, but she reached out and took his hand, and Izuku's breath caught at the contact. When you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll be here. Okay? Her hand was warm, small in his but somehow grounding. Okay, Izuku said softly. They sat like that for a moment, hands linked, something unspoken passing between them. Then the door burst open and Yaoyorozu walked in, freezing mid-step when she saw them. Oh, I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt. Uraraka yanked her hand back like she'd been burned, face flaming red. You're not interrupting. We were just talking about hero stuff, very heroic discussions. Yaoyorozu's eyes flickered between them, something complicated crossing her expression. I see. I brought these. She held up a stack of books. Advanced combat theory texts. I thought they might help with your recovery downtime. That's very thoughtful, Yaoyorozu. Thank you. She set them on the bedside table, movements precise and controlled. How are you feeling? Better. Stronger. The light is responding again. Good. We'll need you at full strength. Yaoyorozu's expression was serious. The sports festival is in 3 weeks. Given your performance at the USJ, you're the favorite to win. The sports festival. Izuku had almost forgotten about it in the chaos. Everyone will be watching, Yaoyorozu continued. All the pro heroes, the agencies, the scouts, it's the biggest opportunity to showcase our abilities. It's also going to be a target, Uraraka added quietly. After what happened at the USJ, everyone knows UA has strong students. The villains might... They won't attack the festival, Izuku said with certainty. Too public, too many heroes present. Even the League isn't that bold. He hoped, on the 7th day, Recovery Girl finally cleared him to return to class. Your reserves are back to about 80%, she said, checking her notes. Still not full strength, but functional. No overexertion for another week. Light training only. And if you feel any spiritual exhaustion, you come straight back here, understood? Yes, ma'am. Thank you for everything. Just doing my job, dear. She smiled. Now go. Your classmates have missed you. Izuku made his way to Class 1A, dressed in his uniform, the silver medal from the support department hanging around his neck. As he walked the halls, students stopped and stared. Whispers followed him. That's him. The Holy Knight. He soloed the League of Villains. I heard he's stronger than All Might. Izuku kept his head up, expression calm, but internally he was uncomfortable. This attention, this fame, it was everything he'd never wanted. He just wanted to be a hero, help people. The recognition felt wrong somehow. He reached Class 1A and slid the door open. The entire class turned to look at him. For a moment, silence. Then Kirishima started clapping. One by one, the rest of the class joined in. Even Bakugo, after a long moment, added a slow clap. Welcome back, Midoriya. Ida stood at attention. Your presence has been sorely missed. Glad you're okay, Ribbit? Tsuyu added. Uraraka was smiling so brightly it could have powered the building. Yaoyorozu nodded approvingly. Todoroki met his eyes and inclined his head slightly, the closest thing to a smile Izuku had seen from him. Thanks, everyone, Izuku said, throat tight with emotion. It's good to be back. He took his seat, and the normalcy of it felt wonderful. Just another day. Just another class. Except Midoriya. The door slammed open and Present Mike burst in, grin manic as always. Looking good, listener? Ready for English class? The lesson proceeded normally, or as normally as Present Mike's classes ever went. Izuku found himself grateful for the routine, the familiar rhythm of school life. At lunch, the cafeteria fell silent when he entered. Every student turned to stare. Then someone started clapping. Then everyone was clapping. This is so embarrassing, Izuku muttered, but he managed a smile and a small wave. He grabbed his lunch and headed to his usual table where Ida, Uraraka, and the others waited. Popular guy now? Kaminari teased. How's it feel to be famous? Weird. I don't like it. Get used to it, Todoroki said bluntly. After the sports festival, it'll be worse. The sports festival. Right. 3 weeks away. So what's the plan? Kirishima asked. You gonna hold back so the rest of us have a chance, or are you going full Paladin mode? I don't hold back, Izuku said simply. If we're going to be heroes, we need to give it everything. That's what the festival is for, pushing past our limits. Manly answer, Kirishima grinned. I'm fired up now. You should be nervous. Bakugo's voice cut in from behind them. The explosive boy dropped his tray on the table with a loud clang and sat down uninvited. Kachan? Don't get the wrong idea. Bakugo scowled. I'm not here to be friends, but if I'm going to beat you at the festival, I need to see where you're at. Can't strategize against an opponent I don't understand. You want to team up for lunch? Uraraka asked, surprised. I want information. Bakugo's eyes fixed on Izuku. So talk, Deku. What the hell did you do to that Nomu? That lightning move? I've never seen anything like it. Smite, Izuku explained. It calls divine lightning from the heavens. The light judges the target and... Judges? What does that mean? The attack is stronger against evil, against corruption. The Nomu was artificially created, its body twisted by dark science. The light responded to that. Bakugo processed this. So against a regular person, it'd be weaker. Against someone with pure intentions, yes. Against a villain consumed by darkness, it's devastating. Bullshit morality-based power scaling. But Bakugo was taking mental notes. Izuku could tell. What else you got? For the next 20 minutes, Izuku found himself explaining his abilities to an audience of increasingly fascinated classmates. Not the details. He wasn't going to reveal all his techniques, but the basics. The auras, the armor, the weapons. So you can't be disintegrated? Yaoyorozu asked, referencing Shigaraki's quirk. The blessed steel of my armor is immune to corruption-based quirks. Decay is corruption, so yes, I'm immune. What about fire? Ice? Physical force? Depends on which aura I'm using. Defiance makes me resistant to elemental attacks. Fortress makes me immovable. Fanaticism trades defense for speed and offense. Switching between them mid-combat, Todoroki observed. That's the key to your fighting style. Adaptability. Exactly. Izuku was impressed. Todoroki was sharp. If I'm locked into one mode, I can be countered. But if I can switch tactics... You're always one step ahead, Todoroki finished. I understand. Their eyes met across the table, and Izuku saw the challenge there. Todoroki wanted to fight him. Wanted to test himself against the Paladin. Good. Izuku wanted that too. The rest of the day passed in a blur of classes and training. Hero basic training with All Might was cancelled. Apparently, the symbol of peace was dealing with the fallout from the USJ attack and increased security concerns. Instead, they had a study period with Aizawa, who looked like he'd been run over by a truck. His ribs were still bandaged, his face bruised. Sensei, should you be here? Ida asked, concerned. I'm fine. Takes more than a Nomu to keep me down. Aizawa's expression was grim. We need to talk about what happened at the USJ. The class sobered immediately. You were attacked by a coordinated villain organization, Aizawa continued. They knew our schedule, knew which teachers would be present, knew about the USJ facility. This suggests a leak, or at minimum, sophisticated intelligence gathering. They were after All Might, Izuku said quietly. Yes, Shigaraki Tomura's interrogation confirmed that, but they also targeted you specifically, Midoriya. Izuku blinked. What? The Nomu you fought. It was deployed specifically to counter you after you manifested your armor. The League had intel on your abilities from the sludge villain incident. A chill ran down Izuku's spine. They'd been watching him, studying him. This means you're a target now, Aizawa said bluntly. The League of Villains knows what you can do. More importantly, their mysterious leader, the one Shigaraki calls Sensei, knows about you. You need to be careful. I can handle myself. I know you can. You proved that. But vigilance is still necessary. Aizawa's eyes softened slightly. You did good at the USJ, Midoriya. You saved lives, protected your classmates, made the kind of choices a real hero makes. I'm proud of you. Coming from Aizawa, those words meant everything. Thank you, Sensei. After school, Izuku headed to the training grounds. He needed to test his recovered abilities, make sure everything still worked after his spiritual exhaustion. He found an isolated area, closed his eyes, and reached for the light. It responded immediately, flooding through him like warm sunlight. Not quite as strong as before the USJ, but close. Very close. All right, Izuku murmured. Let's see if I still remember how to do this. Golden light erupted from his body as the armor manifested piece by piece. Sabatons, greaves, cuisses, breastplate, pauldrons, gauntlets, helmet. The weight settled on him like a familiar embrace. He summoned his mace and shield, feeling their balance, their power. Perfect. He dismissed them and tried again. Faster this time, flash, full manifestation in under a second. Good. He spent the next hour testing abilities. Smite, blessed hammer, consecration, shield bash. Each one responded perfectly, the light flowing through him without hesitation. Your form has improved. Izuku spun to find All Might, in his muscular form, standing at the edge of the training ground. All Might, I didn't hear you approach. Occupational habit, the symbol of peace chuckled. I wanted to check on you, see how you were recovering. Better. Not quite 100%, but close. All Might walked closer and his expression turned serious. I need to apologize, young Midoriya. For what? For not being there at the USJ. For arriving too late. You had to face that Nomu alone. You had to protect your classmates without backup. That's on me. You can't be everywhere at once, Izuku said firmly. And I wasn't alone. I had the light. Still, All Might sighed, and for a moment he looked tired. Old. I'm supposed to be the symbol of peace, the one who saves everyone with a smile, but lately I feel like I'm failing at that. This was the real All Might, Izuku realized. Not the persona, the man beneath the smile. You're not failing, Izuku said gently. You've saved thousands of lives, inspired millions. You're the reason I wanted to become a hero in the first place. Even though I told you it was impossible to be a hero without a quirk? Izuku blinked. You remember that? I remember every person I've crushed someone's dreams, All Might said bitterly. I told you that you couldn't be a hero, that it was too dangerous, that you should give up. You were trying to protect me. I understand that now. But you didn't give up. All Might's smile returned, genuine this time. You found another way. You became a hero through sheer determination and faith. You proved me wrong, young Midoriya, and I couldn't be happier about it. They stood in silence for a moment. I wanted to offer you one for all again, All Might said, but I know you'll refuse, so instead I want to offer you something else. What? Training. Real, intensive hero training. I want to help you develop your abilities even further, teach you the things I've learned over decades of hero work. All Might's eyes gleamed. What do you say, young Midoriya? Want to train with the symbol of peace? Izuku's answer was immediate. Yes. Absolutely yes. All Might's grin could have lit up the city. Excellent. We start tomorrow at dawn. And young Midoriya? Yes? Thank you for protecting my students, for being the hero I couldn't be that day. Izuku felt warmth spread through his chest. Not the light, but something purely human. Pride, gratitude. Anytime, All Might, anytime. Training with All Might was brutal. The symbol of peace woke Izuku up at 4:30 a.m. by pounding on his door like the building was on fire. Wake up, young Midoriya. Time to go beyond. Plus ultra. They ran 20 kilometers before breakfast, not jogging. Full sprint, with All Might in his muscle form keeping pace effortlessly while Izuku pushed his enhanced body to its limits. Again, All Might called out. Faster. Sure. A hero must be able to respond instantly. After the run came strength training. All Might had Izuku in full armor, doing exercises designed to push the limits of what the blessed steel could handle. Shield press. 100 reps. Izuku raised the tower shield overhead repeatedly, arms burning, the weight enormous even with the light's enhancement. Mace swings. 200. The flanged weapon cut through the air in perfect arcs, each swing faster than the last. Now combine them. Shield bash into mace strike. Go! Izuku launched forward, shield leading, and struck a training dummy with enough force to crater the reinforced concrete beneath it. He followed immediately with a mace swing that would have pulverized anything less durable than the specially designed equipment. Crack! The dummy's head flew off. Excellent! All Might laughed. But you're telegraphing your mace strike. An observant opponent will dodge. Make it flow from the shield bash. One motion, not two. They trained for 6 hours straight. Combat techniques, tactical positioning, how to read an opponent's body language, how to protect civilians while fighting, how to minimize collateral damage. All Might was a harsh teacher, but fair. He praised when Izuku did well and corrected when he made mistakes. You have raw power, young Midoriya, incredible power, but power without control is just destruction. A hero needs precision. Yes, sir. Show me Heaven's Fury, the concentrated beam version. Izuku planted his feet, raised his mace, and channeled the light. Golden energy gathered above him, coalescing into a beam as thick as his arm. He directed it at a reinforced target 200 meters away. Boom! The beam punched through the target like it was paper, leaving a perfectly circular hole. Good, but you're using too much power. That beam could have done the same damage at half the intensity. Conservation of energy, young Midoriya. In a prolonged fight, you can't afford to waste spiritual reserves. Izuku tried again. This time, he throttled the power back, making the beam thinner, more focused. The result was cleaner, more efficient, and somehow more dangerous. The concentrated energy had more penetrating power than the wider blast. Better, again! By the time training ended, Izuku was drenched in sweat and spiritually exhausted, but he felt good, stronger, more refined. You did well today, All Might said as they walked back to the dorms. I can see why you defeated that Nomu so easily. Your fundamentals are solid. Thank you for training me, All Might. This means everything. It's my pleasure, young Midoriya. And All Might's expression turned serious. I wanted to tell you something. I've decided to pass One for All to someone else. Oh? Izuku kept his voice neutral. Who? A third-year student named Mirio Togata. He's already incredibly strong, and his quirk synergizes well with One for All. With training, he could become the next symbol of peace. That's wonderful. I'm happy for him. You're not upset that I'm not choosing you? All Might, I have the light. I don't need One for All. But someone like Mirio, if he's worthy of your power, then he deserves it. I'll support him however I can. All Might looked at him with something like wonder. You really are something special, young Midoriya. They reached the dorms and Izuku headed inside, ready for a shower and food and maybe 8 hours of sleep. Instead, he walked into chaos. The common room was packed with Class 1A students, all of them crowded around the TV. What's going on? Izuku asked. Sports festival announcement. Kaminari pointed at the screen. They just released the schedule. On the TV, a news anchor was speaking. Confirms that despite the recent villain attack on UA, the sports festival will proceed as planned in 2 weeks. Principal Nedzu released a statement saying, and I quote, "We will not let villains dictate our actions. The festival is a celebration of our students' growth and potential. It will continue. 2 weeks, not 3. They'd moved it up. Why the change? Yaoyorozu wondered aloud. Security concerns, probably, Todoroki said. Sooner we do it, less time villains have to plan. Made sense. But it also meant less time to prepare. Izuku felt a hand on his shoulder and turned to find Uraraka smiling up at him. You ready for this? She asked. As ready as I'll ever be. Good, because I'm going to give you a real challenge this time. Her expression turned determined. At the USJ, you protected us. But at the festival, we're competitors. I'm not going to hold back. I wouldn't want you to. Yaoyorozu stepped closer. A healthy competitive spirit is admirable, though I must warn you both, I intend to place in the top 3 at minimum. We'll see about that, Ribbit, Tsuyu added from the couch. All of you are forgetting something. Bakugo's voice cut through the chatter. He stood in the doorway, arms crossed, expression intense. Deku might be strong, but this isn't a fight against villains. It's a competition, different rules, different strategies. You have a point, Kachan. Damn right I do, and I'm going to win. Bakugo's grin was feral. I've been training non-stop since the USJ. I've got new moves, new tactics. You're not the only one who's gotten stronger, Deku. The challenge in his voice was clear. This was personal for Bakugo. The sports festival would be their real test. I look forward to it, Izuku said honestly. For a moment, they locked eyes, green meeting crimson, and an understanding passed between them. This was going to be war. The next 2 weeks were a blur of preparation. Izuku trained with all might every morning, refining his techniques, learning advanced combat theory. In the afternoons, he attended classes and participated in hero basic training with the rest of Class 1A. Aizawa pushed them hard, running combat scenarios and teamwork exercises. The festival is individual competition, but hero work is about cooperation. Remember that. Izuku found himself partnered with different classmates each day. With Ida, learning to coordinate speed and power. with Yaoyorozu, practicing tactical adaptability, with Tokoyami, understanding how to fight alongside someone with a difficult-to-control quirk. He even partnered with Bakugo once. It was not terrible. They didn't speak much, but they didn't need to. Bakugo would create openings with his explosions, and Izuku would capitalize with precise strikes. They fell into a rhythm that felt almost natural. "You two work well together," Aizawa observed. "Have you considered coordinating for the festival?" "It's individual competition," Bakugo snapped. "The cavalry battle is team-based." Bakugo and Izuku exchanged glances. "We'll consider it," Izuku said carefully. After training one day, Izuku found himself cornered by a group of students from other classes. "Midoriya," a girl from 1B bounced up to him. "Can I get your autograph? You're so cool." Mine too," a boy from the support department pushed forward. "I'm designing equipment for the festival. Can you test some for me?" "Actually, I don't use." "Midoriya, Izuku." A tall, muscular third year stepped through the crowd and the other students scattered. "I'm Mirio Togata. All Mights mentioned you." "Ah, the one-for-all successor." "It's nice to meet you." Izuku extended his hand. Mirio shook it with a grip like steel. "All Might says you're incredibly strong, that you beat a Nomu designed to kill him." "I had the advantage of faith-based powers. The Nomu was corrupted, so the light was especially effective. Still impressive." Mirio's smile was genuine. "I'm looking forward to seeing you at the festival. All Might talks about you a lot, says you're going to change the hero world." "I don't know about that." "Don't sell yourself short." Mirio clapped him on the shoulder hard enough to stagger a normal person. "You're already a legend among the students here. The Holy Knight of UA. That's a cool title." They talked for a while, and Izuku found he genuinely liked Mirio. The third year was enthusiastic, kind, and clearly dedicated to heroism. He'd make a good symbol of peace someday. As Mirio left, someone else approached. Midoriya. Todoroki stood there, expression as neutral as ever. "Todoroki, what can I do for you?" "I wanted to tell you something before the festival." Todoroki's heterochromatic eyes were intense. "I'm going to beat you. Looking forward to it. You don't understand. I need to beat you." Todoroki's fists clenched. "My father is Endeavor, the number 2 hero. He's obsessed with surpassing All Might. When I was born with both ice and fire, he saw me as his masterpiece, his tool to surpass the symbol of peace." Izuku listened quietly, sensing this was important. "I refuse to use his fire," Todoroki continued. "I'll become the number 1 hero using only my ice, only my mother's power. I'll show him that his perfect creation rejects him." "That's a lot of weight to carry," Izuku said gently. "I know. But when I saw you at the USJ, when I watched you fight with absolute conviction, using power that came from within rather than genetics, I realized something." Todoroki met his eyes. "You're not bound by your father's expectations. You're not anyone's tool. You're free." "You're free too, Todoroki. The power is yours, no matter where it came from." "Maybe. But I need to prove that to myself, by beating you, by showing that I can overcome someone as strong as you using only half my power." Izuku understood then. This was Todoroki's test, his way of rebelling against his father's control. "I'll give you my best," Izuku promised. "No holding back. When we fight, I'll show you what the light is truly capable of." "Good." Todoroki's lips quirked up slightly. "I wouldn't want it any other way." The night before the sports festival, Izuku couldn't sleep. He sat in his dorm room, the Chronicles of Zakarum open on his lap, reading passages he'd memorized years ago. "The Paladin walks a lonely path, chosen by the light, set apart from others. He is shield and sword, protector and destroyer, mercy and judgment." Lonely path. Was he lonely? Izuku thought about his classmates. Uraraka's confession, Yaoyorozu's fascination, Bakugo's grudging respect, Todoroki's determination, All Might's pride. Maybe the path wasn't so lonely after all. A knock on his door pulled him from his thoughts. "Come in." Uraraka peeked in, wearing pajamas covered in stars. "Hey, saw your light was still on, couldn't sleep either?" "Too much on my mind." She sat on the edge of his bed, uninvited. "Nervous about tomorrow?" "A little, excited too. The whole country will be watching, every pro hero, all the agencies. This is the big moment." She smiled. "No pressure, right?" "Right." Izuku closed the book. "Uraraka, about what you said, in the hospital." Her expression shifted, hopeful and scared simultaneously. "Yeah? I've been thinking about it, a lot, and Izuku took a breath. I care about you too, more than I probably should while trying to focus on becoming a hero, but my dedication to the light, my purpose, it has to come first. Do you understand? I do. Uraraka's smile was sad but genuine. Hero work first, I get it, that's what makes you who you are. But, Izuku continued, surprising himself with his boldness, when the festival is over, when things calm down, maybe we could figure out what this is between us? Uraraka's face lit up like the sun. Really? Really? She threw her arms around him in a hug that nearly knocked him over. Thank you. You won't regret this, I promise. Izuku hugged her back, and it felt right. Natural. When she pulled away, her cheeks were pink, but her smile was radiant. I should let you sleep. Big day tomorrow. You're going to be amazing. You too. She headed for the door, then paused. Midoriya? Yeah? Win. Show the whole world what a real hero looks like. I will. After she left, Izuku lay back on his bed, staring at the ceiling, and for the first time in years, he felt complete. The light was his power, his purpose, his calling. But maybe he was allowed to have more than that. Maybe he was allowed to be human too. Tomorrow, he would step into the arena as the Paladin. Tonight, he was just Izuku Midoriya. And that was enough. The morning of the sports festival dawned bright and clear. Izuku woke to his alarm at 5 a.m., showered, dressed in his gym uniform, and headed to the common room. Most of Class 1A was already there, the nervous energy palpable. Morning, Ribbit, Tsuyu greeted him. Morning. Big day. Kirishima was practically vibrating with excitement. I'm so pumped. This is going to be the manliest competition ever. Settle down, Aizawa's voice cut through the chatter. Their teacher stood in the doorway, looking slightly less sleep-deprived than usual. Before we head to the stadium, I want to say something. The class quieted immediately. You're all first years. Most of you have had your quirks for less than a decade. You're inexperienced, untested, and by all rights, you should be nervous about competing in front of the entire country. Great pep talk, Sensei, Izuku thought. But you're not ordinary first years. You survived a villain attack. You've trained harder than any class I've taught. You've pushed yourselves beyond what I thought possible. Aizawa's expression softened slightly. So when you step into that arena today, remember, the whole world is watching. Show them what UA is made of. Show them what heroes look like. Yeah! The class roared. They loaded onto the bus to the stadium, the ride filled with chatter and last-minute strategizing. Izuku sat next to Todoroki, who was staring out the window silently. Ready? Izuku asked. I have to be. My father will be watching. Then show him what you can do. Todoroki's jaw tightened. I will. With my ice alone, I'll prove I don't need his fire. The stadium came into view. A massive structure that could hold tens of thousands of spectators. Today, it was packed. The roar of the crowd was audible even from outside. They filed into the waiting area, joining the other first-year classes. Students from 1B, General Studies, Support, and Business courses all gathered, separated by class but united in nervous anticipation. Attention, first years. A voice boomed over the PA system. Please proceed to the stadium floor for the opening ceremony. They walked through the tunnel, and the sound grew louder, brighter, and then they emerged into the arena proper. The noise was deafening. Thousands of people packed the stands, cheering, waving banners, screaming names. Cameras flashed. News drones hovered overhead. This was beyond anything Izuku had imagined. Ladies and gentlemen, President Mike's voice echoed through the stadium. Welcome to the UA Sports Festival. Let's give it up for our first-year students. The crowd roared. Classes marched onto the field in formation. Izuku walked with Class 1A, head high, expression calm, but his heart was pounding. They assembled before a raised platform where Midnight, the R-rated hero, stood in her revealing costume, holding a microphone. Before we begin, Midnight purred, we have the student pledge. This year's representative with the highest entrance exam score is... Izuku's stomach dropped. Izuku Midoriya from Class 1A. The crowd exploded into cheers. Holy night! Holy night! Holy night! Izuku walked up to the platform on shaking legs. He hadn't prepared a speech. Hadn't expected this. Midnight handed him the microphone with a wink. Make it good, honey. Izuku looked out at the sea of faces, at his classmates, at the pros in the VIP section, All Might, Endeavor, other top heroes. At the cameras broadcasting this to the entire nation, he closed his eyes, reached for the light, and let it guide his words. 2 months ago, Izuku began, his voice carrying across the stadium, I was just another student hoping to become a hero. I had no quirk, no genetic advantage, nothing but determination and faith. The crowd quieted, listening. Today, I stand here not because of biology or luck, but because I refuse to give up, because I found another path, because I believe that heroism isn't about the power you're born with, it's about the choices you make. He opened his eyes, and they glowed faintly gold. To everyone watching, to my fellow students, to the heroes who inspire us, I pledge to give everything I have today, to fight with honor, to push beyond my limits, to show the world what conviction looks like. He raised his fist, and golden light flickered around it. Plus ultra. The crowd went absolutely insane. The noise was like a physical thing, washing over the stadium in waves. Students cheered. Pras nodded approvingly. Even the other classes looked fired up. Izuku returned to his spot in the Class 1A formation, and Uraraka grabbed his arm. That was amazing, she whispered. I can't believe I just did that, Izuku muttered, adrenaline making his hands shake. Midnight took the microphone back, grinning. Well said. Now, let's move on to the first event. This year's preliminary round is a screen behind her lit up displaying the words, The Obstacle Race. The stadium floor began to transform, sections rising and lowering, obstacles materializing through some combination of quirks and technology. The rules are simple, Midnight explained. A 4-kilometer course around the stadium. First 42 students to finish advance to the next round. Quirks are allowed, sabotage is allowed, just don't kill anyone. The students filed to the starting line, a massive gate barely wide enough for everyone to fit. Izuku found himself pressed between Todoroki and Bakugo, both of whom were radiating competitive intensity. Don't get in my way, Deku, Bakugo growled. Same to you, Kachan. Begin. Midnight's whip cracked, the gate opened and chaos erupted. Students surged forward, jamming the entrance immediately. Bodies pressed together, quirks activated in desperation, people shoving and pushing. Izuku didn't bother with the crowd. He manifested his gauntlets, bent his knees, and jumped. The light enhanced his legs, and he soared over the entire crowd, clearing them by 20 feet. He landed in a roll, came up running, and activated Fanaticism Aura. The world became a blur. Izuku shot forward like a golden comet, eating up ground at impossible speed. Behind him, he heard Present Mike's commentary. And Midoriya takes the lead immediately. Look at him go. That's not even his full speed. The first obstacle appeared, a pit filled with robot enemies from the entrance exam. 0-pointers, 3-pointers, all of them blocking the path. Most students would have to fight through them. Izuku manifested his full armor mid-sprint. Shield charge. He lowered his shoulder, raised his shield, and became an unstoppable freight train. The robots tried to block him, tried to attack. They might as well have tried to stop a hurricane. Crash! Izuku smashed through the first robot, reducing it to scrap metal. The second, the third. He carved a path through them like they were made of cardboard, the blessed steel of his shield obliterating everything it touched. Behind him, other students took advantage of the opening. Todoroki froze the robots. Bakugo blasted past them. Yaoyorozu created a cannon and destroyed several at range. But Izuku was already at the second obstacle. A chasm. Deep and wide, with tight ropes suspended across it. Most students would have to carefully balance their way across. Izuku manifested his wings. Falling star! He launched into the air, soaring over the chasm in seconds. The crowd gasped as golden wings spread from his back, radiant and impossible. Midoriya is flying! I repeat, the Holy Knight is flying! Is that even legal? There's no rule against it, Midnight confirmed over the loudspeaker, sounding amused. Izuku landed on the far side of the chasm and dismissed his wings. Third obstacle coming up. A minefield. He could see the disturbed earth where the mines were buried. Most students would have to navigate carefully, avoiding the explosives. Izuku didn't slow down. He activated Fortress Aura and a dome of golden light surrounded him. Then he ran straight through the minefield at full speed. Boom, boom, boom. The mines detonated as he stepped on them, explosions erupting around him. But the fortress held, the divine light absorbing every blast without a scratch. He's running through the minefield. He's actually running through it. Midoriya, that's insane. The final stretch was clear ground, a straight shot to the finish line. Izuku poured on the speed, Fanaticism Aura making him faster than should be possible for someone in full plate armor. The stadium came back into view. The gate ahead, he crossed the finish line in first place by a full minute. The crowd erupted. First place, Izuku Midoriya. Time, 4 minutes, 32 seconds. That's a new record. Izuku dismissed his armor, breathing hard but not exhausted. He'd paced himself, used his abilities efficiently, like All Might had taught him. Other students began arriving. Todoroki came in second, having frozen the ground behind him to create an ice path that blocked other competitors. Smart. Bakugo exploded across the finish in third, looking furious that he hadn't beaten Izuku. Yaoyorozu, Ida, Tokoyami, Kirishima, Uraraka Tsuyu, Class 1A, dominated the top placements, with students from other classes mixed in. By the time 42 students had finished, the preliminary round was over. Midnight took the stage again. Congratulations to everyone who passed. Now, for the second event, the screen lit up. Cavalry battle. Groans and excited murmurs rippled through the students. Here's how it works, Midnight explained. Form teams of 2 to 4 people. One person is the rider, the others are the horses. Each team gets points based on placement in the first round. The objective is to steal headbands from other teams while protecting your own. The top 4 teams advance to the finals, she grinned wickedly. Oh, and one more thing. First place is worth 10 million points. Every eye in the stadium turned to Izuku. He felt the weight of their stares, the hunger, the predatory focus. 10 million points, a massive target on his back. You have 15 minutes to form teams, Midnight announced. Good luck. Immediately, students began grouping up. Izuku stood alone for a moment, considering his options. Midoriya. Uraraka ran up to him. Team up with me. Me too, Ida appeared. Your tactical abilities combined with our mobility would be formidable. I'm in, a quiet voice said. They turned to find Tokoyami standing there, dark shadow looming behind him. My quirk excels at defense and crowd control, Tokoyami explained. Against multiple opponents, I can create a perimeter. Izuku considered. Uraraka's zero gravity could make him mobile. Ida's speed could help with repositioning. Tokoyami's dark shadow could defend and attack simultaneously. All right, let's do this. They huddled together, planning strategy, while across the field other teams formed. Todoroki had recruited Ida. No, wait, Ida was with Izuku's team. Todoroki had grabbed Kaminari, Yaoyorozu, and someone else. A strong team, Bakugo formed a team with Kirishima, Ashido, and Sero. Aggressive and mobile, the teams assembled on the field, headbands distributed. Izuku tied his around his head, the 10 million point marker that made him the biggest target. Are you sure about this? Uraraka asked nervously. Everyone's going to come after us. Let them, Izuku said calmly. We'll show them what conviction looks like. Begin! Chaos erupted immediately. Every team charged at Izuku's group simultaneously. Todoroki's team, Bakugo's team, random teams from other classes, all of them converging on the 10 million points. Tokoyami, defense. Dark Shadow, rampart. The sentient quirk expanded, forming a wall of darkness around their team. The first wave of attackers crashed against it and were pushed back. Uraraka, make me lighter. Ida, mobility. Uraraka touched Izuku's armor, and his weight reduced to almost nothing. Ida's engines roared, propelling them away from the mob, but Todoroki was ready. A massive wall of ice erupted from the ground, cutting off their escape route. Predictable, Midoriya, Todoroki called out. You can fly, but your team can't. You're bound to them. He was right. Izuku could manifest wings and escape, but that would leave his team vulnerable. So he didn't run. Fortress. Golden light exploded from Izuku in a dome that covered his entire team. It solidified into an impenetrable barrier of divine energy. Todoroki's ice crashed against it, shattered. Bakugo's explosions detonated on its surface, absorbed. Other teams' quirks, fire, electricity, acid, all of it was nullified by the light. Midoriya's team has created an invincible defense. Nobody can touch them. The other teams pulled back, regrouping, trying to figure out a strategy. Izuku used the moment to think. He couldn't keep Fortress up forever. It drained his spiritual reserves. But if he dropped it, they'd be swarmed. We need to go on offense, he decided. Tokoyami, can Dark Shadow grab headbands? Easily. Uraraka, I need you to make enemies float when I point them out. Ida, circle around the perimeter. Keep us mobile. Understood. Izuku dropped Fortress and immediately switched to fanaticism. They became a blur of motion. Ida's engines carried them around the field at high speed. Tokoyami's dark shadow lashed out, grabbing headbands from slower teams. Uraraka made enemies float, disrupting their formations, and Izuku, standing tall as the rider, directed it all with tactical precision. 3 o'clock! That team! Dark shadow grabbed their headband. 11 o'clock! Make that rider float! Uraraka touched them, and they drifted helplessly into the air. Within minutes, Izuku's team had accumulated points from half a dozen other teams while still maintaining their 10 million point headband. But then Todoroki made his move. His team had been holding back, observing, and now they struck with coordinated precision. Yaoyorozu created an insulated blanket to protect from dark shadow. Kaminari unleashed electricity to disrupt Ida's engines. Todoroki himself created an ice path and charged straight at Izuku. His hand reached out, fingers centimeters from the 10 million point headband. Izuku caught his wrist. Not today, Todoroki. He activated a pulse of light. Not enough to hurt, but enough to knock Todoroki back. The half-ice, half-fire user stumbled, his team's formation breaking. Time's running out, Present Mike announced. 30 seconds remaining. The field was chaos, teams scrambling for last-second points, Bakugo's team making a desperate charge at Izuku. 20 seconds. Todoroki tried again, ice and wait. Fire? A small flame flickered on Todoroki's left side, unconsciously activated in the heat of competition. 10 seconds. Izuku's team held formation, protecting their points, fighting off all challengers. Time's up. The stadium froze. Midnight's voice rang out. Let's see the results. The screen displayed the final standings. First place, Team Midoriya, 10,650,000 points. Second place, Team Todoroki, 705 points. Third place, Team Bakugo, 665 points. Fourth place, Team Shinso from General Studies, 420 points. These 4 teams advanced to the final round. Midnight announced, the tournament. The crowd roared its approval. Izuku's team broke apart, all of them breathing hard. We did it! Uraraka jumped excitedly. We actually did it! Excellent teamwork, Tokoyami said, Dark Shadow nodding agreement. That was intense. Ida adjusted his glasses. But we prevailed through cooperation. Izuku looked across the field at Todoroki, who was staring at his left hand with a complicated expression. The fire had manifested without his conscious intent. His father's power emerging despite his resistance. Their eyes met, and Todoroki's expression hardened with determination. Their fight was coming, and it was going to be intense. All right, everyone. Midnight called for attention. We'll have a 1-hour break for lunch. Then we return for the tournament. 16 fighters, single elimination, winner takes all. The students dispersed, heading to the waiting areas and cafeterias. Izuku found himself surrounded immediately by his classmates, all of them congratulating him, asking questions, wanting to strategize. But he noticed someone standing apart from the group. Bakugo, alone, staring at his hands with that same frustrated expression he'd worn since the USJ. Izuku excused himself and walked over. Kachan. What do you want, Deku? You did well out there. Your team's coordination was impressive. Bakugo's jaw clenched. Don't patronize me. I lost. Again, just like always. The tournament's not over. You could still win. Not against you. Bakugo's voice was bitter. You're going to win the whole thing. Everyone knows it. The Holy Knight, the Paladin, the kid who soloed the League of Villains, you're untouchable. I'm not untouchable, Izuku said quietly. I'm just trained, dedicated, and I've been lucky. Lucky, Bakugo laughed harshly. Right, luck. That's what beat Anomu. That's what won the cavalry battle without losing a single point. That's what's going to win you the tournament. He turned to face Izuku directly, and there was something raw in his expression. Vulnerability that Bakugo never showed. I've been training my whole life to be the best, to surpass All Might, to be the #1 hero. But you started from nothing, quirkless, worthless, and now you're stronger than all of us combined. Kachan, I'm not done. Bakugo's fists clenched. I don't know if we'll fight in the tournament. Depends on the bracket. But if we do, I'm not holding back. I'm going to hit you with everything I've got, every technique I've developed, every strategy I've planned. I'm going to push you harder than anyone else can. I'd expect nothing less. I'd expect nothing. And when I lose, Bakugo's voice dropped to almost a whisper, because we both know I'm going to lose. I'll accept it. I'll acknowledge that you're better. But I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep getting stronger, keep training, keep pushing, until one day I can stand beside you as an equal. Izuku felt something warm in his chest, pride, respect. You're already strong, Kachan, and you're going to be an amazing hero. Bakugo looked at him for a long moment, then nodded once. Damn right I am. He walked away, and Izuku watched him go, feeling like something significant had just happened. The 1-hour break passed quickly. Izuku ate lunch with his classmates in the cafeteria, the mood celebratory, despite the upcoming battles. All of Class 1A had made it to the tournament, an unprecedented achievement for first years. The brackets will be announced soon, Ida said, consulting his phone. I'm nervous about the matchups. Just don't get paired against Midoriya in the first round, Kaminari joked. That'd be the shortest fight ever. I don't know, Yaoyorozu mused. Midoriya is powerful, yes, but this is a tournament with rules. No lethal force, no permanent damage. That limits some of his abilities. Does it, though? Tokoyami asked. His light can be calibrated for non-lethal applications. We saw that at the USJ. He defeated 40 villains without killing any of them. They were talking about him like he wasn't there. Izuku found it amusing. Uraraka nudged him. You okay? You've been quiet. Just thinking about the fights ahead. Everyone here is strong. I can't afford to underestimate anyone. Even me? She grinned. Especially you. Your quirk is versatile and your tactical mind is sharp. If we fight, it'll be challenging. Her blush was immediate and brilliant. You really think so? I know so. They were interrupted by an announcement over the PA system. All tournament participants, please return to the stadium floor. The brackets are being announced. The 16 fighters assembled in the arena, the crowd roaring its approval. Midnight stood at the center with a display screen showing the tournament bracket. These matchups were determined randomly, she announced. Let's see who's fighting whom. The screen lit up, names appearing in slots. First round, Izuku Midoriya versus Hitoshi Shinso, Shoto Todoroki versus Hantasero, Ochako Uraraka versus Katsuki Bakugo, Tenya Ida versus Mei Hatsume, Fumikage Tokoyami versus Momo Yaoyorozu, Eijiro Kirishima versus Tetsu, Mina Ashido versus Yuga Aoyama, Denki Kaminari versus Ibara Shiozaki. Izuku scanned the bracket. He'd be fighting someone named Hitoshi Shinso from General Studies, the same student whose team had placed 4th in the cavalry battle. First match. He'd be setting the tone for the entire tournament. Fighters, take your positions, Midnight commanded. First match begins in 5 minutes. Izuku walked to the prep area, breathing slowly, centering himself. He reached for the light, feeling it respond immediately. Ready and eager, from the shadows of the tunnel, someone spoke. You're the Holy Knight. Izuku turned to find a boy with purple hair and tired eyes standing there. Hitoshi Shinso. I am. Everyone says you're going to win the whole tournament, that nobody can beat you. We'll see. Shinso's expression was bitter. Must be nice. Having all that power, being praised and worshipped. Do you have any idea what it's like for the rest of us? I was quirkless until I was 8, Izuku said quietly. I know exactly what it's like to be powerless. But you're not powerless now. You're the strongest first year in UA history. You beat a Nomu. You're famous. Shinso's hands clenched. People like me, we're nothing, invisible. Told our quirks aren't good enough for heroics. What's your quirk? Brainwashing. If you respond to my question, I can control you, make you do whatever I want. Shinso's smile was sharp. Villainous quirk, they call it. Not heroic, not flashy, just wrong. Izuku understood then. Shinso had been judged his entire life based on his quirk, the same way Izuku had been judged for lacking one. Your quirk doesn't define you, Izuku said firmly. Your choices do. How you use your power, who you protect, that's what makes a hero. Easy for you to say. It's the truth, and I'll prove it to you in the arena. They were called to the fighting stage, a simple rectangular platform surrounded by the roaring crowd. Present Mike's voice boomed. First match of the tournament. In this corner, the Holy Knight himself, the student who defeated the League of Villains single-handedly, Izuku Midoriya from Hero Course 1A. The crowd went absolutely insane, chanting his name. And in this corner, the dark horse from General Studies, using his mind to fight where others use their fists, Hitoshi Shinso. Polite applause, but nothing compared to Izuku's reception. Midnight raised her hand. This match will continue until one fighter is knocked out, surrenders, or is pushed out of bounds. Begin, Shinso immediately spoke. So tell me, Holy Knight, what does it feel like to be a puppet? Izuku didn't respond. Couldn't respond, because the moment Shinso had asked a question, his quirk had activated. The brainwashing took hold, and Izuku felt his body freeze, his mind going blank, consciousness receding into a gray void. The crowd gasped. "Midoriya's not moving! What's happening?" In the gray void, Izuku drifted, thoughts sluggish. He could hear Shinso's voice distantly. "Walk out of the arena. The match is over." His body began to move on its own, one foot stepping forward mechanically. But then, the light responded. In the void, golden radiance flared. The presence of Akarat, the strength of his convictions, the years of dedication and faith, all of it rose up like a tide. Brainwashing was a form of mental corruption. And the light purified corruption. Flash! Divine energy exploded through Izuku's mind, burning away Shinso's control like fog before the sun. His body stopped mid-step, consciousness returning in a rush. The crowd roared. Izuku's eyes snapped open, glowing pure gold. "What?" Shinso staggered back. "That's impossible. Nobody breaks my quirk." "Your quirk is strong," Izuku said, manifesting his full armor in a burst of radiance, "but it cannot corrupt the light." He took a step forward, and the platform cracked under the weight of his armored boot. Shinso tried again. "How did you do that?" Izuku didn't respond to the question. He simply advanced, shield raised, mace ready. Shinso was out of options. He had no combat training, no physical enhancements. His entire strategy had been the brainwashing, and it had failed. To his credit, he didn't give up. Shinso charged forward as throwing a desperate punch. Izuku caught his fist gently in one gauntleted hand and held it. "You have heart," Izuku said quietly, loud enough for only Shinso to hear. "Your quirk is powerful. With the right training, the right mindset, you could be an incredible hero. Don't give up." Then he simply pushed. Shinso slid backward across the platform, unable to resist Izuku's strength, and tumbled out of bounds. "Shinso is out of bounds! Midoriya wins!" The crowd exploded into cheers. Izuku dismissed his armor and extended a hand to help Shinso up. The purple-haired boy stared at it, then took it. "Why?" Shinso asked as Izuku pulled him to his feet. "Why help me? I tried to humiliate you." "Because you're going to be a hero someday," Izuku said simply. "And heroes help each other." Shinso's eyes widened, something shifting in his expression. As they left the arena, Present Mike's commentary echoed behind them. "What a display! Midoriya breaks the brainwashing and wins with ease. But did you see that? He helped his opponent up. That's true heroism, folks." In the VIP section, All Might watched with a proud smile. Endeavor, sitting beside him, was less impressed. Soft. A real hero would have destroyed him immediately. A real hero, All Might countered, knows when to show mercy. Back in the prep area, Izuku barely had time to catch his breath before the next match began. Todoroki versus Sero. It was over in seconds. Todoroki encased Sero in a glacier of ice so massive it extended beyond the arena, creating a frozen monument. Sero surrendered immediately, shivering. "That's excessive!" Present Mike shouted. "Somebody get Recovery Girl out here!" Todoroki walked off the stage without looking back, ice still clinging to his right side. The third match was announced. Uraraka versus Bakugo. Izuku watched from the prep area with the other fighters as his two classmates took the stage. This was going to be brutal. Uraraka stood across from Bakugo, determination written on her face. She'd been training hard, developing new tactics, preparing for this moment. Bakugo looked like he wanted to explode something. "Don't expect me to go easy on you just because you're a girl. I wouldn't want you to." Uraraka's smile was fierce. "Begin." Bakugo immediately launched forward with explosion-propelled speed. Uraraka dodged, touched the ground, and chunks of debris floated into the air. She sent them flying at Bakugo in a barrage. He blasted through them with explosions, scattering the concrete. "That all you got?" But Uraraka wasn't done. While Bakugo had been focused on the debris, she'd been touching more pieces, sending them high into the air, hiding them in the sun's glare. Now she brought them all down at once. A meteor shower of concrete and debris rained down on Bakugo from above. Too much to dodge, too many angles to counter. For a moment, Izuku thought she might actually win. Then Bakugo grinned. "Nice try!" He placed both hands palm up and unleashed his most powerful explosion yet. Howitzer impact! The blast was enormous, a swirling vortex of explosive force that incinerated all the falling debris and created a shockwave that knocked Uraraka off her feet. When the smoke cleared, Uraraka was still in bounds but unconscious, the impact having knocked her out. Uraraka is unconscious. Bakugo wins. The crowd was silent, shocked by the brutality of the attack. Bakugo went too far, someone in the crowd shouted. She's just a girl. That was excessive. Bakugo heard the boos. His expression darkened, but he didn't respond. He simply walked off the stage, fists clenched. Izuku met him at the tunnel entrance. You didn't go too far, Izuku said before Bakugo could speak. What? Uraraka wanted you to take her seriously. To fight her like you'd fight any opponent. You honored that. The people booing don't understand what it means to be a hero, to respect your opponent enough to give them your best. Bakugo stared at him for a long moment, then his scowl softened slightly. She was strong. That meteor shower strategy, if I'd been a second slower, she would have won. She'll be stronger next time. Yeah, she will. Bakugo walked past him. Don't lose before we get to fight, Deku. I won't. The tournament continued. Ida defeated Hatsume after a bizarre match where the support course student used him as a demonstration platform for her inventions. She eventually stepped out of bounds herself, satisfied with her advertising. Tokoyami beat Yaoyorozu in a close match. Dark Shadow's overwhelming offense proved too much for her defensive creations. Kirishima and Tetsu, both with hardening quirks, had a battle that came down to raw endurance. Kirishima won by a hair. Ashido defeated Aoyama with superior mobility, and Kaminari lost to Shiozaki after overusing his quirk and short-circuiting his own brain. The quarterfinals began. Izuku versus Todoroki. This was the match everyone had been waiting for. The Holy Knight against the Son of Endeavor. Faith versus genetics. Light versus ice and fire. They stood across from each other on the arena floor, the crowd's roar fading into background noise. Midoriya, Todoroki said quietly. I'm going to beat you with my ice alone. I refuse to use his fire. I refuse to give him the satisfaction. His fire? Izuku's expression hardened. Todoroki, it's your fire, your power, not his. You don't understand. He created me, bred me like a tool, abused my mother until she broke, all so I could surpass All Might using both ice and fire. Well, I won't. I'll beat you. I'll become the #1 hero, all without his fire. Then you're a fool, Izuku said bluntly. Todoroki's eyes widened. You're limiting yourself out of spite, Izuku continued. Refusing to use half your power because of your father's expectations. But that's still letting him control you. Real freedom would be using everything you have on your terms. Begin! Midnight's voice cut through the tension. Todoroki immediately unleashed a massive glacier, ice spreading across the arena at terrifying speed. Izuku manifested his armor and raised his shield. Fortress. The golden dome appeared and the ice crashed against it, spreading around it but unable to penetrate. The light held firm. Todoroki didn't stop. Wave after wave of ice trying to overwhelm the defense through sheer volume, but Fortress was absolute. As long as Izuku maintained it, nothing could touch him. You can't attack while defending, Todoroki called out. And you can't hold that forever. He was right. Fortress drained spiritual reserves when under constant assault. Izuku would have to drop it eventually, so he did. The dome fell, and Izuku immediately switched to fanaticism. He became a golden blur. Before Todoroki could react, Izuku closed the distance between them, mace swinging in a precise arc aimed at Todoroki's side. Ice! A wall erupted between them, and Izuku's mace shattered through it, but lost momentum. Todoroki created distance with another ice wave, sliding back on a path of frozen ground. You're fast, but I can control the battlefield. More ice, walls and spikes and barriers, turning the arena into a frozen fortress with Todoroki at the center. Izuku assessed the situation. He could fly over it with wings, could blast through with heaven's fury, could demolish everything with smite, but that wasn't the point of this fight. Todoroki, Izuku called out. You're strong, incredibly strong, but you're holding back, using only half your power. Is this really how you want to win? I don't need his fire to beat you. It's not about need. Izuku manifested Blessed Hammer, and spectral weapons began spinning around him, golden and radiant. It's about pride, about choosing your own path. Your mother gave you ice, your father gave you fire, but you get to choose what to do with them. He sent the hammers forward, and they smashed through Todoroki's ice walls like they were made of paper. Todoroki created more ice, his right side starting to frost over from overuse. But he pushed through, driven by stubbornness and years of resentment. The fight continued. A clash of ice and light, two students pushing each other past their limits. Izuku broke through another wall, and they were face to face. This is your limit, Izuku said, noting Todoroki's shivering, the ice crystals forming on his skin. You're freezing yourself. Your body can't handle this much ice without your fire to regulate your temperature. I can keep going. But why? Izuku slammed his shield into the ground and consecrated flames erupted around them both. The warmth immediately began thawing Todoroki. Your power is your own. Use it. All of it. Show me what you're really capable of. Todoroki looked at him with wide eyes. I can't. If I use his fire, he wins. He wins if you destroy yourself out of spite. Izuku's voice carried absolute conviction. He wins if you refuse to be your best self because of him. The real victory is using everything you have and becoming the hero you want to be. Something shifted in Todoroki's expression. A crack in the armor of resentment he'd built. He looked at his left hand, flames beginning to flicker on his palm unconsciously. In the stands, Endeavor leaned forward, eyes intense. Do it, Shoto. Use your fire. Show them your full power. And somehow, Todoroki heard him. The flames erupted. Fire blazed from Todoroki's left side, massive and powerful, mixing with the ice from his right to create a swirling vortex of opposing elements. That's it, Present Mike screamed. Todoroki's using both sides. This is incredible. Todoroki looked at Izuku, and for the first time, there was clarity in his eyes. Thank you for reminding me. This is my power. Then show me. Izuku manifested his divine greatsword, Zenith. The massive blade appeared in his hands, gleaming with holy light. Show me the full extent of what you can do. Todoroki gathered his power, ice and fire combining in his ultimate attack. Here I come. The blast that followed was apocalyptic. Fire and ice spiraled together in a beam of raw elemental fury. Izuku raised Zenith high. Divine smite. Golden lightning fell from the heavens, channeled through the blade, and he swung it down to meet Todoroki's attack. The collision was like a bomb going off. The arena floor cracked from the impact, massive fissures spreading outward. The crowd's protective barrier flared as shockwaves washed over it. Cameras shook. The entire stadium trembled. When the light faded, both fighters stood in a crater of their own making, breathing hard. But Izuku was still standing strong, armor gleaming. Todoroki was on one knee, exhausted from the massive energy output. I can't. Todoroki tried to stand, but collapsed. I'm out of strength. Izuku dismissed Zenith and walked over to him, extending a hand. You did well. You accepted your power. That's a victory in itself. Todoroki took the hand, and Izuku pulled him up. Todoroki is unable to continue. Midoriya wins. The crowd erupted into applause. Not just for Izuku, but for both of them, for the display of power and heart and growth they just witnessed. As they left the arena together, Todoroki spoke quietly. My mother, she used to tell me I could be a hero, that I could use my power to help people. I'd forgotten that, buried it under my hatred of my father. You can remember it now. Yeah. Todoroki smiled, actually smiled. I can. The semifinals were next. Bakugo defeated Tokoyami after figuring out that light weakened Dark Shadow. He created explosions bright enough to overwhelm the quirk, then closed in for close combat. Ida beat Ashido with superior speed and tactics, and now the finals were set. Izuku Midoriya versus Katsuki Bakugo. The crowd was losing their minds. The two students from the same middle school, former childhood friends, now rivals, would face each other in the championship match. This is it, Deku, Bakugo said as they prepared to take the stage. No holding back. No mercy. You give me everything you've got, or I'll never forgive you. I wouldn't dream of doing otherwise, Kachan. They walked onto the stage to a standing ovation. Present Mike was screaming himself hoarse. The final match. The Holy Knight versus the Explosion Master. Midoriya versus Bakugo. This is it, folks. They took their positions across the arena from each other. Izuku looked at Bakugo. Really looked at him. His former bully. His childhood friend. The boy who'd tormented him for years, but who was now genuinely trying to become a better person. He manifested his full armor, shield, and mace. Golden light blazed around him. Bakugo grinned, setting off explosions in his palms. Let's do this. Begin! They moved simultaneously. Bakugo launched forward with explosion-propelled speed, hands extended, setting off blasts that could crater concrete. Izuku raised his shield and met him head-on. Boom! 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 Explosions detonated against blessed steel, and Izuku's defiance aura absorbed the blasts. But Bakugo was relentless, attacking from multiple angles, using the recoil from his explosions to change direction midair. He's gotten faster, Izuku realized. much faster. Bakugo landed a hit on Izuku's shoulder pauldron, the explosion strong enough to rock him back a step, then another on his shield, then one on his side. Bakugo had developed a new fighting style, rapid-fire explosions from constantly changing angles, never staying still long enough to be countered. "How do you like that, Deku?" Bakugo shouted. "I've been training too." Izuku switched to Fanaticism Aura and became a blur. He swung his mace in a wide arc, and Bakugo barely dodged, the weapon passing centimeters from his face. Counterattack! Bakugo spun and launched an explosion at Izuku's back. Shield up! Izuku blocked without looking, having sensed the attack through years of combat training. They exchanged blows at blistering speed, the arena becoming a war zone. Every explosion left scorch marks. Every shield bash cratered the ground. The crowd was on its feet, screaming. This wasn't like Izuku's other fights. This was close. Competitive. Bakugo had trained so hard, developed new techniques specifically to counter Izuku's abilities. Howitzer impact. The massive explosion forced Izuku to plant his shield and activate Fortress momentarily. The blast washed over the dome, dissipating harmlessly, but the moment he dropped Fortress to counterattack, Bakugo was ready. Stun grenade! A blinding flash and deafening sound erupted from Bakugo's gauntlets, a new move designed to disorient. It worked. For a split second, Izuku's senses were overwhelmed. Bakugo used that opening to land a direct hit on Izuku's chest plate. Boom! The explosion was point-blank, powerful, and actually managed to rock Izuku back several steps. The crowd gasped. "He landed a solid hit," Present Mike shouted. "Bakugo is actually pushing Midoriya." Izuku grinned behind his helmet. This was what he wanted. A real challenge. A fight that tested him. "Well done, Kachan." He manifested Blessed Hammer, and dozens of spectral weapons appeared, spinning around him in a vortex. Bakugo's eyes widened. Crap! The hammers launched. Bakugo dodged, weaved, and blasted them out of the air, his reflexes pushed to their absolute limit. He was incredible, destroying spectral weapons that could shred steel moving faster than most pros, but there were too many. One hammer clipped his shoulder, another his leg, a third hit him square in the chest and sent him flying. Bakugo hit the ground, rolled, and came up smoking, but not done. "That all you got?" He charged again, and Izuku met him with shield charge. They collided in the center of the arena. Boom! The shockwave knocked spectators in the first row back into their seats. Like the ground beneath them shattered, the force of two immovable wills meeting head-on. They separated, both breathing hard now. "You're strong, Kachan," Izuku said, meaning every word. "Stronger than I thought. Stronger than almost anyone in our year. But not stronger than you." Bakugo's voice was bitter but accepting. "Not yet." Bakugo laughed. Actually laughed. "Not yet. I like that. Means I still have room to grow." He charged one final time, pouring everything he had left into one last assault. Explosions from every angle. Flashbangs to disorient. Howitzer impacts to overwhelm. Stun grenades to create openings. Everything Bakugo had learned, every technique he developed, unleashed in one final desperate barrage. Izuku weathered it all. His shield blocked, his armor absorbed, his auras rotated to counter different attack types. And when Bakugo finally exhausted himself, when the explosion stopped and the smoke cleared, Izuku was still standing. Bakugo dropped to one knee, breathing ragged, quirk tapped out. Izuku walked over and placed his hand on Bakugo's shoulder. Not aggressive, not mocking, respectful. "You pushed me harder than anyone else has," Izuku said quietly. "In another year with more training, you might actually beat me." Bakugo looked up at him, and there was no hatred in his eyes, just determination. "Damn right I will." He stood, raised his hand, and walked toward the edge of the arena. "Wait!" Present Mike shouted. "Where are you going?" Bakugo stopped at the boundary line. "I lost. I gave it everything and it wasn't enough. But that's fine." He looked back at Izuku. "Because next time I'll be stronger." He stepped out of bounds. Bakugo forfeits. Midoriya wins. Your champion of the UA Sports Festival is Izuku Midoriya. The crowd's roar was deafening. Izuku stood alone in the center of the arena, armor gleaming, and looked up at the stands, at the thousands of people cheering his name, at the cameras broadcasting this to the entire country, at his classmates celebrating, at All Might standing in the VIP section with a proud smile. This was what being a hero felt like. Not just the power or the victories, the recognition. The responsibility, the weight of everyone's expectations. He dismissed his armor and raised his fist to the sky. The light blazed around him one final time, golden and radiant and impossible to look away from. "Plus ultra," he shouted, and the entire stadium shouted it back. The award ceremony took place an hour later after medical checks and cool-down periods. A podium had been set up in the center of the arena. First, second, and third place. Izuku stood on the highest platform. Bakugo stood to his right on the second. Todoroki and Tokoyami shared the third place spot, having both lost in the semifinals. All Might descended from above in a dramatic entrance, cape billowing, smile blazing. "Young heroes," his voice boomed across the stadium. "You have all done magnificently. You've shown skill, determination, and heart. You are the future of hero society." He approached the podium, carrying medals. To Tokoyami, "You demonstrated incredible quirk control and adaptability. Well done." To Todoroki, "You discovered the truth about your power, that growth alone makes you a winner." To Bakugo, "Your explosive determination and never give up attitude embody the spirit of a true hero." Bakugo took the medal silently, expression complicated. Finally, All Might approached Izuku. "Young Midoriya," All Might said, and his voice carried genuine emotion. "You have done something remarkable today. You've shown the entire country that heroism isn't about quirks or genetics. It's about conviction, about faith, about choosing to protect others no matter the cost." He placed the gold medal around Izuku's neck. "You are an inspiration, not just to your classmates, but to everyone watching. You've proven that there's more than one path to heroism, that determination and faith can equal or surpass genetic gifts." All Might leaned in close enough that only Izuku could hear. "I'm proud of you, my boy. So very proud." Then he stepped back and addressed the crowd. "Let's hear it for your champion, for all these amazing young heroes. The future is bright." The stadium erupted one final time. Later that evening, after the crowds dispersed and the media circus died down, Class 1A gathered in their dorm common room to celebrate. Snacks covered every surface. Music played. Students laughed and talked. The tension of competition replaced by camaraderie. Izuku found himself on the couch, exhausted but happy, the gold medal still around his neck. Uraraka sat down beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. "Congratulations," she said softly. "You were amazing. You were too. That strategy against Bakugo was brilliant." "Not brilliant enough," she smiled. "But I learned a lot. Next time I'll be even stronger." "I believe it." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Uraraka took his hand. "Midoriya, about what we talked about before the festival." "Yeah. I meant it. Every word. And now the festival is over." Her cheeks turned pink, but her eyes were determined. "I want to try. Us. Together. If you want to." Izuku looked at her, really looked at her. The girl who'd believed in him from the start, who'd supported him, stood beside him, pushed him to be better. "I want to," he said honestly. "But I'm not good at this. The whole relationship thing, I'm going to mess up sometimes." "That's okay. We'll figure it out together." "Together," Izuku agreed. Uraraka's smile could have lit up the room. She leaned in and kissed him on the cheek, quick and sweet, then bounded away before he could react, face flaming red. Izuku sat there, stunned, while his classmates whooped and hollered. "Finally!" Ashido screamed. "About time you two got together." "Indeed." Ida chopped his hand through the air. "A healthy, romantic relationship between classmates is perfectly acceptable as long as it doesn't interfere with hero studies." Even Bakugo, sitting in the corner, cracked a small smile. "Took you long enough, Deku." Later that night, after the celebration died down and everyone headed to bed, Izuku found himself on the dorm roof, looking at the stars. He wasn't alone. Yaoyorozu stood at the railing, having apparently had the same idea. "Congratulations on your victory," she said without turning around. "Thank you. You fought well too." "Not well enough," she sighed. "I have much to learn." They stood in silence for a moment. "I saw what happened with Uraraka," Yaoyorozu said quietly. "Oh, yeah. I'm happy for you both. Truly." She finally looked at him and her expression was complicated. "Though I'll admit I'm also disappointed." Izuku blinked. "What?" "I've been watching you since the entrance exam, studying your abilities, yes, but also you, your conviction, your dedication, your kindness." Yaoyorozu's smile was sad. "I'd hoped, but I was too cautious, too slow to act, and Uraraka was braver than me." "Yaoyorozu, it's all right." She turned back to the stars. "You made your choice. I respect that. And truly, I'm happy you found someone who makes you smile." "We'll still be friends, right?" Of course, friends and classmates. She headed for the roof access door. Good night, Midoriya, and congratulations again. She left, and Izuku was alone with his thoughts. The sports festival was over. He'd won. He'd proven himself to the country. He'd helped Todoroki accept his power. He'd earned Bakugo's respect. He'd started a relationship with Uraraka. Everything should have felt perfect. But something nagged at him. A feeling. An instinct. Dark times were coming. The League of Villains was still out there. Their mysterious leader, All for One, was planning something. Shigaraki's words kept echoing in his mind. This is only the beginning. Izuku looked up at the stars and prayed quietly. Akarat, grant me wisdom. Dark forces gather. Evil plots and shadows. Give me the strength to face what's coming. Give me the conviction to protect those I care about. The light pulsed within him, warm and reassuring. Whatever came next, he would be ready, because he was a paladin, and the light never abandoned those with true faith. The week after the sports festival was chaos. Izuku's face was everywhere. News articles, social media, advertising. The Holy Knight had become a household name overnight. Hero agencies flooded UA with internship offers. Hundreds of them. Everyone wanted the student who'd soloed the League of Villains and won the sports festival. This is insane, Izuku muttered, looking at the stack of offers on his desk. All Might appeared in the doorway, deflated form as always when in private. Quite the predicament, eh? Young Midoriya? How do I choose? There are so many. Choose the one where you'll learn the most, where you'll grow as a hero. All Might walked closer. Though I have a suggestion, if you're interested. Of course, Gran Torino. He was my teacher, retired now, but he's agreed to take on one student for an internship. He's tough, demanding, and he'll push you harder than anyone else. Sounds perfect. He specializes in close combat and tactical adaptation. Things you're already good at, but he can refine them even further. Then I'll intern with him. All Might smiled. Good choice. The internships would begin after the weekend. Until then, classes continued as normal. Well, as normal as things could be when half the school wanted Izuku's autograph. He was walking to lunch when someone grabbed his arm and yanked him into an empty classroom. Izuku spun, light flaring defensively, then relaxed when he saw who it was. Toga? The girl with blonde hair and twin buns grinned at him, eyes wild. Holy Knight! I finally got you alone! Wait. Izuku's brain caught up. Toga, as in Himiko Toga. The League of Villains member who'd been obsessed with blood, he immediately manifested his gauntlets. What are you doing here? Don't be mean, she pouted. I just wanted to talk. I've been watching you since the USJ. You're so cool and strong, and that armor is so shiny. You're a villain. I should be restraining you right now. But you won't. Her smile was knowing. Because I'm not attacking anyone. I'm just a student, see? She gestured to herself, and Izuku realized she was wearing a UA uniform. Got in on a provisional scholarship, quirk counseling program. They're trying to rehabilitate villains with problematic quirks. That was actually a real program. UA had started it this year after the League of Villains attack, trying to prevent more villain recruitment by offering support to students with quirks society viewed as villainous. So you're not with the League anymore? Nope. Well, not officially. Shigaraki's in prison, Kurogiri's in prison, everyone's scattered. I figured I'd try the whole hero thing. Seems fun. Izuku studied her carefully. She seemed genuine, but Toga was also a master manipulator. Why tell me? Because you're interesting. She bounced closer. You don't have a quirk, but you're strong anyway. You call down lightning and make armor from light. You fight with conviction and honor, and you're so pretty when you glow gold. I'm pretty? Super pretty. She was in his personal space now, eyes wide and intense. I want to be close to you, learn from you, maybe even. Her grin turned predatory. Taste a little bit of your holy blood? Just a drop? Absolutely not. Ah, you're no fun. But she stepped back, respecting the boundary. Fine, but we're going to be friends, Holy Knight, whether you like it or not. She skipped away, humming cheerfully, leaving Izuku completely confused. He'd just been recruited, befriended, stalked by a former villain. This school gets weirder every day, he muttered. At lunch, he told his friends about the encounter. Toga Himiko is here? Uraraka looked ready to fight. The blood villain? Apparently she's in the rehabilitation program. That's dangerous, Ida said seriously. We should inform the teachers. They probably already know. UA wouldn't let her in without clearance. Still, Yaoyorozu looked concerned. You should be careful around her, Midoriya. Her quirk lets her transform into people by drinking their blood. She could be impersonating someone right now. Fair point. For the rest of the week, Izuku kept his guard up, but Toga seemed genuine in her desire to reform. She attended classes, participated in training, and while her methods were unconventional, she didn't hurt anyone. She also followed Izuku everywhere. Holy Knight, let's train together. Holy Knight, want to eat lunch? Holy Knight, tell me about the light. Is it warm? Does it feel good? Uraraka was not happy about this development. She's clearly into you, Uraraka said, arms crossed, watching Toga hover around Izuku during hero training. She's obsessed with my power, not me. Same thing, right? Izuku didn't have an answer for that. The weekend came, and Izuku prepared for his internship with Gran Torino. All Might had given him the address, a small apartment in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing fancy, nothing that screamed legendary hero trainer. Izuku knocked on the door. A tiny old man answered, maybe 4 feet tall, with a ridiculous helmet covering most of his head. You're late, Gran Torino snapped. I'm 10 minutes early. Then you're late by 10 minutes. Get in here. The apartment was small and cluttered. Hero memorabilia covered every surface. Photos of All Might in his younger days hung on the walls. So you're Toshinori's new project? Gran Torino studied Izuku with sharp eyes. The Paladin. The holy warrior. The kid with no quirk who somehow became one of the strongest students in UA. That's me, sir. Don't call me sir. Call me Gran Torino, and drop the honorifics. I'm too old for formality. Yes, see, Gran Torino. Better. The old man hopped onto a chair. Toshinori says you're strong but lack refinement. That you rely too much on raw power and not enough on technique. True? Probably true. Then we're going to fix that. For the next week, you're going to learn what it means to fight someone faster and smarter than you. Before Izuku could respond, Gran Torino moved. 1 second, he was sitting in the chair. The next, he was behind Izuku, foot planted squarely in the boy's back, kicking him across the room. Wham! Izuku hit the wall, more surprised than hurt. Lesson 1, Gran Torino said from his new position across the room. Speed beats power if power can't hit you. Let's see that fancy armor. Izuku manifested his full plate, shield, and mace. Ready. Good. Try to hit me. What followed was the most humiliating hour of Izuku's life. Gran Torino was fast. Faster than anyone Izuku had fought. The old man used his jet quirk to bounce around the apartment at insane speeds, coming from angles Izuku couldn't predict, landing hits before Izuku could react. Too slow. Kick to the back. Too predictable. Kick to the side. Too reliant on your defenses. Kick to the helmet that actually rang Izuku's bell despite the blessed steel. By the end of the hour, Izuku was bruised, frustrated, and questioning his entire combat style. You're strong, kid, Gran Torino said, not even winded. Stupidly strong. But you fight like a tank. You take hits and deal them back. That works against slower opponents, but against someone with speed and tactics, you're vulnerable. What do? Learn to predict. Learn to move. Learn to use your opponent's momentum against them. Gran Torino grinned. And most importantly, learn to think 3 steps ahead. The week of internship training was brutal. Every day, Gran Torino pushed Izuku past his limits. They drilled combat scenarios where Izuku couldn't use his strongest abilities. Where he had to rely on technique over power. Where he had to predict instead of react. Block left. No, I said left. Kick. Counterattack. What are you waiting for? Shield position. You're leaving your right side open. By day 3, Izuku could track Gran Torino's movements slightly better. Could predict maybe 1 in 5 attacks. By day 5, he was predicting half of them. Could occasionally land counterattacks. By day 7, the final day of internship, Izuku had improved dramatically. They faced each other in the apartment one last time. Final test, Gran Torino said. Land 1 clean hit on me. That's all. Just 1. Understood. They moved. Gran Torino bounced around the room at high speed, but Izuku was ready. He didn't try to track with his eyes. Instead, he listened, felt the air currents, sensed the killing intent through his connection to the light. There! Izuku spun and swung his shield exactly where Gran Torino would be. The old man appeared right on cue, but instead of hitting him, Izuku's shield passed through empty air. Feint. The real attack came from above. Izuku raised his mace and blocked Gran Torino's kick. Clang! Metal met metal, and for the first time all week, Gran Torino's attack was stopped. The old man grinned. Good, but that's not a clean hit. That's a block. He bounced away and the fight continued. Izuku changed tactics. He manifested Blessed Hammer, but instead of sending them all at once, he released them one at a time, creating a pattern, forcing Gran Torino to dodge in predictable directions. There. When Gran Torino dodged the third hammer, Izuku was already moving. He appeared in the path, mace ready, and swung. Whoosh! Gran Torino dodged by millimeters. Close! But Izuku had anticipated the dodge. His shield was already swinging in a backhand arc. Clang! The blessed steel caught Gran Torino's shoulder. Not hard, not damaging, but contact, a clean hit. The old man landed, laughing. There it is. You finally learned to think ahead. He clapped Izuku on the shoulder. You did good, kid. Really good. You came in here as a powerhouse. You're leaving as a warrior. That's growth. Thank you, Gran Torino, for everything. Don't thank me. Thank yourself for being willing to learn. The old man's expression turned serious. Dark times are coming, kid. I can feel it. The League of Villains is just the beginning. There are older, darker forces moving in the shadows, forces that predate quirks. All for one. Yeah, him, and worse. Gran Torino looked at Izuku intently. Your light, it's not from this world, is it? No, it's from a place called Sanctuary. Then maybe it's what we need. Something from outside our broken system. Something pure, he smiled. Keep training, keep growing. And when the darkness comes, and it will come, you be ready to shine. Izuku left the internship stronger, faster, and more refined than when he'd arrived, but Gran Torino's words haunted him. Darker forces moving in the shadows, forces that predate quirks. That night, back in his dorm room, Izuku opened the Chronicles of Zakarum and read a passage he'd skipped before. In the final days, when the prime evil rises, when darkness threatens to consume all light, the Paladin must make a choice, to sacrifice everything or to let the world burn. There is no middle path. Sacrifice everything? Izuku closed the book, troubled. What did that mean? The answer would come sooner than he expected, because in a warehouse across the city, in a meeting of shadows and whispers, a figure in a black suit sat in darkness. All for one. Defeated. Powerless. But not destroyed. Kurogiri, the ancient villain, whispered. Are the preparations complete? Yes, master. The mist villain stepped forward, having been released from prison by a mysterious benefactor. The high-end Nomus are ready. The League has been contacted. The traitor at UA has been activated. Excellent. All for One's smile was terrible even in darkness. Then it's time. Time to show this world what true power looks like. Time to break the symbol of peace. Time to extinguish the light. He stood, and the darkness seemed to gather around him. Ready the assault. In 3 days, we attack UA with everything we have. We capture Bakugo, we kill All Might, and we destroy the Paladin who dared to burn away my stolen powers. Master, are you certain? Your body is still... I know my limits, Kurogiri, but this isn't about my limits. This is about sending a message. Heroes can be broken. Schools can be destroyed. Even holy knights can bleed. His laughter echoed through the warehouse. 3 days. And then... war. Back at UA, Izuku woke from a nightmare he couldn't remember, but his hand unconsciously reached for the medal around his neck, the symbol of UA's faith in him, and in the darkness of his room, the light pulsed once. A warning, a promise. Whatever was coming, Izuku would face it, because he was a paladin, and the light never abandoned the faithful. 3 days later, the attack began. It started at dawn. Izuku woke to alarms blaring through UA's campus, the sound piercing and urgent. Red lights flashed in his dorm room. All students report to designated safe zones immediately. This is not a drill. UA is under attack. He was in full armor before the announcement finished, light blazing around him as he manifested shield and mace. The dorm common room was chaos, students in various states of dress, some scared, some ready to fight. What's happening? Kaminari shouted over the alarms. Aizawa burst through the door, capture weapon already deployed. League of Villains, large-scale assault, multiple Nomus confirmed. Students, get to the underground shelters now. We can help, Kirishima protested. We're hero students. Your students, Aizawa snapped. Leave this to the pros. That's an order. Sensei, Izuku stepped forward. If it's the League, they're here for me. I can't hide while others fight. Midoriya, I defeated them before. I can do it again. Aizawa looked like he wanted to argue, but explosions rocked the building. The sound of combat from outside, screams, quirks activating, buildings being destroyed. Fine, Aizawa growled, but you stay with me. No solo heroics. Understood? Understood. They rushed outside into absolute chaos. The UA campus had become a war zone. Nomus, at least a dozen of them, rampaged across the grounds, not the weak ones from the sports festival. These were high-ends, enhanced, intelligent, deadly. Pro heroes fought them desperately. Present Mike's voice amplification shattered windows trying to damage one. Midnight's sleep quirk was countered by gas masks. Snipe's bullets bounced off reinforced hide, and above it all, in the center of the destruction, stood All for One. He was different from before. His body was scarred, burned in places where Izuku's light had damaged him. But he was standing, moving, fighting. All Might faced him, the two titans clashing in midair, each blow shaking the ground. "There!" someone shouted, pointing at the sky. A portal opened, and through it came the League of Villains. Shigaraki Tamura, somehow free from prison. Dabi with his blue flames, twice creating clones. Compress using his marbles. Spinner, Magni, Muscular, all of them, and leading them wearing a black coat and mask was someone new, someone Izuku didn't recognize. "Separate them," Aizawa ordered. "Don't let them coordinate." The battle became a scattered melee. Students were ushered to shelters by support staff. Pro heroes engaged the Nomus and League members. The campus was being destroyed. Izuku moved through the chaos like a golden comet, heading straight for the largest concentration of enemies. A high-end Nomu spotted him and charged, muscles bulging with stolen strength quirks. Izuku didn't slow down. "Shield bash!" Boom! The impact created a shockwave that knocked over nearby trees. The Nomu flew backward, armor shattered, and crashed through a building. Two more Nomus appeared, flanking him. Consecration! Holy fire erupted from the ground, and both Nomus screamed as the blessed flames burned their corrupted flesh. Izuku pressed forward, smashing through enemies, heading toward All for One and All Might's battle. That's when he felt it. A presence. Dark, familiar, powerful. He spun just in time to see Toga, but not Toga. Her form flickered, shifted, and suddenly she was someone else. Someone in a business suit with a careful smile, then she attacked. Blood manipulation quirk. She sent crimson blades flying at Izuku from multiple angles. He blocked with his shield, but the blades curved around it, guided by her quirk. They struck his armor, and while they couldn't penetrate, they stuck there, pulsing with dark energy. Surprise! Not Toga's voice was different, masculine, cold. "We've got a traitor at UA, someone who let us in, someone who's been helping us all along." The blood on Izuku's armor began to pulse, to burn with dark energy. It was trying to corrupt him, to break through the light's protection. Purify. Divine radiance exploded from Izuku's body, and the corrupted blood evaporated instantly. The figure flickered again, reverting to Toga. "Ah, you're no fun. But fine, let's dance, Holy Knight." She lunged with blood-formed weapons, fast and precise. But Izuku had trained with Gran Torino. He was faster now, more technical. He dodged, parried with his shield, and counterattacked with his mace. Clang! 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 They exchanged blows at high speed, Toga's expression manic and delighted. "You're even prettier up close when you fight. Those golden eyes, that shining armor. I want to keep you forever." That's not happening. Izuku caught her wrist mid-strike, channeled the light through his gauntlet, and the blessed energy made her quirk falter. The blood weapons dissolved. "Ow, ow, ow." She yanked free, shaking her hand. "Mean." Before Izuku could finish the fight, a massive explosion drew his attention. All Might and All for One's battle had reached a critical point. The two titans were locked in a devastating exchange. Each hit powerful enough to level buildings. The symbol of peace was holding his own, but barely. His time limit was approaching. Izuku could see it in the way he moved, the slight slowness creeping into his attacks. And All for One knew it. "Your time is up, symbol of peace," the ancient villain laughed. "Your era ends today." He unleashed a combination attack, multiple stolen quirks working in concert. Air cannon, force multiplication, impact recoil, all aimed at All Might's injured side. All Might tried to dodge, but was too slow. The attack connected. Boom! The symbol of peace was launched backward, crashing through the main UA building, and lay still in the rubble. "No," Izuku screamed. He abandoned his fight with Toga and activated Falling Star, launching himself into the air with golden wings spread wide. All for One turned to face him, that terrible smile still in place. "Ah, the Paladin. I was wondering when you'd join us." "Leave him alone." Izuku dove, building speed, divine fire wreathing his body. All for One raised one hand casually. Child, you burned away my stolen quirks once. Did you think I wouldn't prepare for a second encounter? Dark energy erupted from All for One's body. Not quirks. Something else. Something older. Something that made Izuku's divine senses scream in warning. This was corruption in its purest form. Evil made manifest. The antithesis of light. They collided in midair. The explosion was apocalyptic, a sphere of golden light and dark corruption expanding outward from the point of impact, vaporizing everything it touched. Buildings, trees. The ground itself, when it cleared, both fighters had been thrown apart. Izuku landed hard, armor scorched, shield cracked. His spiritual reserves were depleting rapidly from that single exchange. All for One landed on his feet, smoking but grinning. Impressive. You actually damaged me, but you're exhausted now, aren't you? One more exchange like that and you'll burn out completely. He was right. Izuku could feel it. The light was still there, still responding, but he'd pushed too hard, used too much power. Then I'll make this one count. Izuku raised his mace. Akarat, grant me strength for one final strike. Let the light burn away this darkness. Oh, please, All for One sneered. Your god can't help you here. This world belongs to power, not faith. To evolution, not prayer. Your light is a relic, a fantasy, and I'm going to extinguish it. He gathered dark energy, preparing his ultimate attack. Izuku gathered the light, channeling everything he had left. This was it, one final clash. Winner take all. Divine Smite. Infinite corruption. They launched their attacks simultaneously. Golden lightning descended from heaven. Black corruption rose from hell. They met in the center, and the world went white. When consciousness returned, Izuku found himself on the ground, armor barely holding together, body screaming in pain. All for One was burned, his body smoking, the corruption that had sustained him burning away, but he was laughing while turning to ash. Good, very good. Other heroes were arriving now, reinforcements, ambulances. The battle was over, but the cost. UA's campus was devastated, buildings destroyed, students injured, pro-heroes down, and both All Might and Izuku were at their absolute limits. Recovery Girl appeared, her quirk activating immediately. Don't move, either of you. You're both critically depleted. Is it over? All Might whispered. Is he finally... All for One is gone, Aizawa confirmed, arriving with others. The League is scattered. The Nomus are destroyed. It's over. Over. The word felt hollow. They'd won. But the victory felt Pyrrhic. The damage was immense. Izuku looked at the ruins of UA, at the injured heroes, at All Might's broken body. This was the cost of protecting others. The price of being a hero, and he would pay it again without hesitation. The aftermath took weeks to process. UA was closed for repairs. Students were sent home temporarily. The media went insane covering the battle, showing footage of Izuku and All Might fighting All for One side by side. Public opinion was divided. Some praised the heroes for their bravery, others criticized UA for putting students in danger. The Hero Public Safety Commission launched an investigation, and through it all, Izuku recovered in the hospital, his body slowly healing, his spiritual reserves gradually refilling. All Might visited often, still in bandages but smiling. You saved my life, young Midoriya. If you hadn't intervened when you did, All for One would have killed me. You would have done the same for me. Still, thank you. All Might's expression turned serious. I'm retiring, officially. The doctors say my body can't handle One for All anymore. My time is up. No, Izuku said firmly. Your time as the symbol of peace is up, but you can still be a hero, still teach, still inspire, just differently. All Might smiled. When did you get so wise? Learned from the best. His classmates visited constantly. Uraraka brought flowers and sat with him for hours. Ida brought schoolwork so he wouldn't fall behind. Todoroki visited once, nodded and left, which was his version of deep concern. Even Bakugo came, though he pretended it was just to complain about the delayed classes. This whole situation is bullshit, Bakugo said, sitting in the chair beside Izuku's bed. They're talking about shutting down UA permanently. They won't. Nedzu won't let them. Better not. I'm not done proving I'm the best. Bakugo was quiet for a moment. You almost died, Deku, fighting All for One. If All Might hadn't shown up. But he did. 2 weeks later, UA reopened. The campus had been rebuilt, stronger than before, new security measures, more pro-heroes on staff, better protocols. And standing at the gates to welcome students back was Principal Nedzu, smiling that unsettling smile. Welcome back, everyone. Let's have a wonderful second semester. Class 1A gathered in their homeroom together again, and Aizawa addressed them. You all did well during the attack. No student casualties. Minimal injuries. You followed protocols and supported each other. I'm proud. Coming from Aizawa, that was high praise. We're moving forward. Hero training continues. The sports festival proved you're all strong. The league attack proved you're ready for real hero work, so we're accelerating your development. He pulled out a stack of papers. These are provisional hero licenses. Normally first years don't get them, but given recent events, the commission has approved special circumstances. You'll take the licensing exam in 1 month. The class erupted in excited chatter. Provisional licenses. Real hero work. This was huge. After class, Izuku found himself on the roof again, just looking at the rebuilt campus. Uraraka joined him, taking his hand without asking. They'd been officially together for a month now, and it felt right, natural. Thinking about the future, she asked. Always. Nervous about the licensing exam? A little. It's a big responsibility, being a provisional hero, making real decisions, saving real people. You've already done all that. The sludge villain, the USJ, all for one. You're more experienced than most pros. Maybe, but there's always more to learn. Uraraka leaned her head on his shoulder. We'll learn together. All of us. Class 1A is strong. Yeah, we are. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the city. In the distance, Izuku could see the lights of downtown Musutafu, millions of people going about their lives, completely unaware of how close they'd come to disaster. But that was okay. That was the job. Heroes fought in the shadows so civilians could live in the light. Hey, Midoriya? Yeah? I love you. The words hung in the air between them, genuine and terrifying and wonderful all at once. Izuku looked at her, at this girl who'd believed in him from the start, who'd stood by him through everything, who'd chosen him, despite his dedication to heroism. I love you too, he said, and like the most important truth he'd ever spoken. She kissed him then, properly this time, and the light pulsed warmly within him, not in response to danger, but in response to joy. This was what he was protecting, these moments, these connections, this fragile, beautiful thing called human happiness, and he would defend it with everything he had. 1 year later. The second-year students of UA Class 2A gathered on the training grounds for their final exam of the semester. Izuku Midoriya stood among them, taller now, broader in the shoulders, carrying himself with the confidence of someone who'd been through actual war. His provisional hero license was pinned to his uniform. His record of successful rescues and villain captures was already impressive enough that some agencies were calling him the next symbol of peace. He hated that comparison. He wasn't All Might. Wasn't trying to be. He was something different, something new. The symbol of hope. Some media outlets called him the light in darkness. The holy knight who proved heroism wasn't about quirks. Standing beside him was Uraraka, now his official girlfriend of over a year, strong and skilled and confident in her own heroism. Bakugo stood on his other side, having finally earned Izuku's genuine respect through a year of relentless training and growth. They were rivals still, but the healthy kind, the kind that pushed each other higher. All right, class, Aizawa called out, looking just as tired as always, but somehow proud. This is your final practical exam. You'll be facing pro heroes in combat scenarios. Show me what you've learned. The students were paired up, sent to different zones. Izuku's partner was Todoroki, a pairing that made sense given their balanced skill sets. Their opponent, Endeavor. The #1 hero, following All Might's retirement, stood waiting for them in the training zone, flames already burning. Shoto, Endeavor addressed his son coldly. And the Paladin, let's see if you've improved. Todoroki's expression was calm. He'd grown past his hatred of his father, learned to use both ice and fire with pride, but he still didn't like the man. Ready, Midoriya? Always. They moved as one, ice and fire and holy light combining in a devastating assault that pushed even the #1 hero back. The fight was intense, challenging, everything a final exam should be, and when it was over, when Endeavor stood over them, victorious but impressed, he spoke directly to Izuku. You're strong. Stronger than most pros. Your power comes from conviction, not genetics, which makes it interesting. Endeavor's eyes narrowed. But conviction can waver. Faith can break. Remember that. My faith won't break, Izuku said with absolute certainty, because it's built on protecting others. As long as people need saving, the light will never abandon me. Endeavor studied him for a long moment, then nodded. We'll see. Later that night, Class 2A celebrated the end of exams with a party in the dorms, music played, food covered every surface. Students laughed and talked, the bonds between them stronger than ever. Izuku found himself on the balcony, looking out at the city lights, the medal from UA still hanging around his neck. All Might joined him, civilian clothes, thin form, but smiling. Thinking about the future, young Midoriya? Always. You've come far, from the quirkless kid I told couldn't be a hero, to this. All Might gestured at Izuku. You've proven me wrong in the best possible way. You gave me a chance, believed in me when others didn't. I almost didn't, almost walked away from you that day, but something stopped me. Maybe it was fate, maybe it was the light working through me. All Might smiled. Whatever it was, I'm glad I listened. They stood in comfortable silence. What's next for you? All Might asked. More training, more rescues, more growth. Izuku's eyes glowed faintly gold. The League is scattered, but not destroyed. All for One is gone, but his followers remain. Darkness will return. And when it does, I'll be ready. We'll be ready. Izuku looked back into the dorm where his classmates celebrated. All of us, together. All Might clapped him on the shoulder. That's the spirit. The symbol of peace protected people through strength. You'll protect them through hope, through showing that anyone can be a hero if they have the conviction. That's the goal. Later, after All Might left, Uraraka found Izuku still on the balcony. There you are, come inside. Mina's doing karaoke and it's hilariously bad. In a minute, Izuku pulled her close. I want to remember this moment, this feeling. What feeling? Peace, happiness, hope, all of us together, safe, celebrating. This is what I fight for. This is why the light chose me. Uraraka kissed him softly. Then let's make sure this feeling lasts. Let's become the kind of heroes who protect these moments for everyone. Deal. They stood together, the future stretching before them, filled with challenges and dangers and uncertainty, but also filled with possibility, with hope, with light, because Izuku Midoriya was a paladin, the first of his kind on Earth. A servant of the light and a protector of the innocent. His journey had only just begun. The darkness would return, evil would rise again. There would be battles and losses and moments where faith was tested. But through it all, one truth remained constant. The light never abandoned those who believed. And Izuku Midoriya's conviction was absolute. He would stand against the darkness. He would protect those who couldn't protect themselves. He would be the shield and the hammer. He would be the symbol of hope. And no matter what came next, no matter what enemies emerged from the shadows, no matter how difficult the path became, he would never stop fighting, because that's what paladins do. The end.
The Chronos Legend roster. Huge respect to the legends fueling this journey. Your support is the engine behind everything we do. Whether you're on the front lines or reaching for the stars, you make this possible. Pro heroes. The elite front line, stepping up and setting the pace for the whole community. Rathakit, Dylan the Proud, D.I., Fire 05. Symbols of peace. The pillars of the community. These titans bring the stability and the hype that keeps us standing tall through it all. Amuri B., Kenneth Ponteris, Neostar Productions, Asael Cardenas, Shaquan Simmons, Thunder, Elijah Saunders, Peter Hamilton, Freddie Rose, Omega, Toxic Rune, Chris Talley, Alexander Thompson, Remorsefuls, Black Vein, Joshua Hedrington, Aaron Abercrombie, Drift SK8er, Akano Himejima, Corey Tokars, Jan, X0 Hope 3565, Devin Black, Crow, Roberto Ramos de Cristina, Dasher Games, Joe Bros, Ray Vaughn Crimson River, Dante Alaster, Adam Yonkers, Blood Saints, Donna Cafe, Zeph, KC, Howie 60, Ignacio, Albert. Hope of the universe. The ultimate guardians. Celestial tier supporters whose impact shines across the galaxy. Coldbane 4. The Maniac 563. Sean Brooks. Kashawn. Debbie Vo. Gvizzlms 21. LS Morningstar. Marl. Spintown. Ike Shoot X50. Greg Green. James. Quan Yen Thompson. Juan. Zeno KJ. If you loved seeing Deku purge heretics instead of crying, smash that subscribe button like a loot goblin. Comment below, should Bakugo be a barbarian or a rogue next? Join the party for more unhinged theory crafting. Stay holy, heroes, and I'll catch you in the next dungeon run.